Chapter 833 Yang Xilang slays the Wang family's quasi-emperor and the Wang family's reaction. At this moment, an incredulous look appeared on the face of the quasi-emperor of the Wang family. Clearly, he had not expected that Yang Xilang's strength had reached such a terrifying level. At the same time, he also quickly unleashed all his power. Then, a huge Dharma image instantly appeared behind him. Unfortunately, even when he unleashed his most terrifying strength, he could not withstand Yang Xilang's attack. After all, Yang Xilang is now the most powerful and invincible being below the Great Emperor level. He could even transcend tribulations now and become an Emperor-level being. Therefore, it is entirely possible for him to kill this quasi-emperor of the Wang family. Then, the Wang family's quasi-emperor, with a look of desolation in his eyes, fell to the ground beneath the sky. No one could have imagined that a powerful expert at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm would perish so easily here. After killing the Wang family's quasi-emperor, Yang Xilang slowly landed beside Chu Wushuang. Although he wasn't worried that Chu Wushuang would get hurt, he was still relieved to see that Chu Wushuang was unharmed. Just now, our family's emperor-level being took the path of the king, so we may face an emperor-level opponent next. Chu Wushuang slowly raised his head and looked at the horizon, saying that he was not afraid of the Wang family's emperor taking action. However, he still wants to traverse the ancient path of the human race. Therefore, they naturally do not want a great battle to occur between powerful beings at the emperor level. Your Highness can now send the top experts of my Great Xia Empire to the Wang family to destroy them. Anyone who dares to provoke your Highness will be killed without mercy. At this moment, Yang Xilang stepped forward with a murderous look on his face and said that since the prince dared to hurt him, he had no reason to live. Their Great Xia Empire is not to be trifled with. If a small force dares to provoke the Great Xia Empire, then isn't that underestimating to the Great Xia Empire? Although we can send the top experts of the Great Xia Empire to destroy this force, it would probably cause a bad reaction. After all, the Great Xia Empire is still in the stage of maintaining its strength. However, if the Wang family sends people, then they will have no reason to exist. After hearing Yang Xilang's words, Chu Wushuang waved his hand. After all, Chu Wushuang also knew that their Great Xia Empire had the Heavenly God Academy as an opponent. Therefore, they naturally cannot take action now. However, if the Wang family is still not sensible enough to fight against their Great Xia Empire, then their Great Xia Empire will not be afraid. After all, the Great Xia Empire was not as simple as one might imagine. After hearing Chu Wushuang's words, Yang Xilang nodded to Chu Wushuang. After all, he now had to listen to his own prince in everything, so he naturally chose to obey Chu Wushuang's words. Chu Wushuang then began to challenge the next level. As for the kingly way he just mentioned, he didn't take it to heart. The huge crater that was left behind was never repaired. Because these are scars left on Chu Wushuang by the laws of time and the laws of the human emperor, even the ancient human path would not be able to repair them so easily. While Chu Wushuang was making his way through the trials, the Wang family was in an uproar. After all, the Wang family lost a quasi-emperor at the peak of his realm this time. Although for the Wang family, a being at the quasi-emperor perfection realm is not particularly powerful. However, it would take at least 1,000 or even 10,000 years to cultivate a being at the perfect quasi-emperor realm, so they are naturally very angry now. What's more, this time, their Wang family's Taoist almost perished in the ancient human path. Isn't this a blatant slap in the face for the Wang family? Inside the main hall of the Wang family, the matriarch of the Wang family and another emperor-level being looked at Wang Dao with gloomy eyes. At this moment, Wang Dao had no aura whatsoever. Golden-colored power of law continued to flow from his severed arm. It was as if he had completely perished. The old matriarch of the Wang family also had a very strong, gloomy expression on her face. At this moment, he wished he could directly kill Chu Wushuang in the ancient human path. Reporting to the old madam, the power of law within his body is the human emperor's law, and more importantly, the genius from the outside world who made the move has already reached the quasi-emperor realm, and his talent is in no way inferior to the king's way. At this moment, the middle-aged emperor-level powerhouse slowly stepped forward and looked at the old matriarch of the Wang family, saying, although this middle-aged emperor has already reached the mid-stage of the emperor realm. However, the matriarch of the Wang family had already reached the level of a great emperor, so naturally, she could not be compared to this emperor. I never expected to encounter someone with the human emperor's law in this human race ancient road. I wonder what the relationship is between this outsider genius with the human emperor's law and the human emperor who descended upon the ancient emperor's city last time. At this moment, another old man standing next to the old matriarch of the Wang family slowly stepped forward and spoke, his eyes filled with worry. What shocked him even more was that the king in front of him had actually provoked a prodigy who possessed the laws of the human emperor. It's important to know that such a rule is extremely rare, not to mention that some people cultivate such laws. The others were even more shocked after overhearing their conversation. Clearly, they hadn't expected that the legendary human emperor's law would actually appear. You should know that they have always believed that the fighting law cultivated by their own Tao child, also known as the King's Way, is the most powerful law in the world. However, unexpectedly, such a law was defeated by the human emperor's law. Regardless of whether he has any connection with the human emperor who appeared in the ancient Chu, he is destined to die this time. At this moment, the old matriarch of the Wang family spoke in a hoarse voice, and at the same time, a strange excitement could be seen in her eyes. Perhaps we don't need to offend the human emperor for the sake of a foreign prodigy. That human emperor's strength far surpasses that of all the great emperors of our Wang family. The old man then slowly stepped forward and spoke. Although their Wang family's Taoist was indeed severely injured by this prodigy from all realms. However, they can still repair Wang Jiadaozi's injuries. Therefore, he felt it was unnecessary to provoke this human emperor. After all, when Chu Fan arrived in the ancient emperor's city, they could sense that the aura emanating from him far exceeded their expectations. They don't need to make an enemy of such a top-tier expert, just for the sake of the Wang family's heir. It's not for the sake of the kingly way, but for the emperor's law within him. Our royal family needs the emperor's law. At this moment, old Madame Wang shook her head and said, while a burning light instantly appeared in her eyes. Especially when it comes to the laws of the human emperor. Chapter 834 The Secret of the Wang Family, the human emperor's secret realm. The matriarch of the Wang family naturally knew that the other members of the Wang family were not particularly convinced of this prodigy who possessed the laws of the human emperor. That's why he would reveal such a secret. Moreover, as long as they obtain the human emperor's law, their Wang family will experience rapid advancement. More importantly, everyone present is a core member of their Wang family, so it wouldn't matter much if he revealed this secret. No one in our Wang family cultivates the human king law, so what use is it for us to possess the human emperor law? The old man who had just spoken was also somewhat surprised after hearing what the old lady of the Wang family said. Then, he slowly looked at the old lady of the Wang family again and spoke. If their Wang family has a prodigy who possesses the human king law, then perhaps they can comprehend the human emperor law and successfully cultivate the human emperor law. However, no one in the Wang family cultivated the human king law, so he felt that the Wang family did not need to offend such a top expert. After hearing the old man's words, the others looked at the old lady of the Wang family with some surprise, because they also knew that even if the Wang family obtained the human emperor's law, it would not be of much use. Our Wang family has discovered a huge secret realm. Legend has it that this secret realm was left behind by the former human emperor. It may contain the secrets of his ascension to immortality. However, unfortunately, to open this human emperor's secret realm, at least someone needs to cultivate the human emperor's law. But as you know, no one in our human empire cultivates the human emperor's law. So now is our opportunity. Without the slightest hesitation, old Madame Wang spoke directly, and after she finished speaking, the fervor in her eyes intensified. Because if they open this human emperor's secret realm, the opportunities they will gain will definitely be great. You must know that this human emperor is said to have entered the path to immortality and truly entered the legendary immortal realm. How could the legacy he left behind be so simple? The old man from the Wang family, who had been maintaining a calm demeanor, stood up instantly upon hearing the words of the Wang family matriarch, looking at her with disbelief in his eyes. If this is true, then even if it offends the real human emperor, they will still capture this genius from the outside world who possesses the human emperor's law. After all, this is a secret realm that can elevate their Wang family. Is what the old lady said true? So he looked very seriously at the old lady of the Wang family and spoke, while also having some guesses in his mind. Our Wang family has discovered this secret realm for tens of thousands of years. During these tens of thousands of years, I have been having the geniuses of the Wang family cultivate the human emperor law, but none of them have succeeded. It wasn't until recently, when the human emperor who possessed the human emperor law descended upon the ancient emperor's city, that I had an idea. Unfortunately, the strength of that human emperor who possessed the human emperor law far exceeded our imagination. At this moment, the old matriarch of the Wang family slowly began to speak. It turned out that they had discovered this human emperor's secret realm tens of thousands of years ago. Unfortunately, the human emperor's secret realm could only be opened by the human emperor's law or the successor of the human emperor. So the old matriarch of the Wang family has been cultivating a prodigy with the human emperor's law in the Wang family. However, the human emperor's law is not something that can be cultivated so easily. Therefore, even after tens of thousands of years, not a single genius has been cultivated to master the laws of the human emperor. When Chu Fan arrived in the ancient emperor city some time ago, she began to have designs on him. Unfortunately, Chu Fan's strength far exceeded the expectations of the Wang family matriarch, so the matriarch was considering whether to tell the most outstanding members of the Wang family about this secret realm of the human emperor. The Wang family is not just the Wang family in the ancient imperial city. There are also several top-tier experts from the royal family in Jinxian City at the end of the ancient road. If they were to make a move, Chu Fan would be an easy target. However, before the matriarch of the Wang family could take any action, she heard news about the ancient human path. Meanwhile, this prodigy from the ancient human path also killed one of the holy sons of the Wang family, which allowed the old matriarch of the Wang family to delay the great battle with Chu Fan. However, unexpectedly, this prodigy from the ancient human path possessed the human emperor's law, which instantly drew the attention of the old matriarch of the Wang family to this prodigy from the ancient human path. It's fair to say that everything happened too conveniently. Otherwise, Chu Fan would probably already be facing off against the top experts of the Wang family in Jinxian City. Upon hearing the words of the matriarch of the Wang family, the members of the Wang family also showed a burning expression in their eyes. If that were really the case, then they could indeed give it a try. Now, I will go and capture this genius from outside the ancient human path. The middle-aged emperor of the Wang family couldn't sit still any longer and stood up to look at the ancient road of the human race, his eyes filled with a burning desire. After all, if that were really the case, he would be eager to arrest this outsider prodigy right now. We cannot interfere with the ancient path of the human race now. Otherwise, it would be tantamount to challenging the rules of the entire human race. Although the elder from the Wang family was also very tempted, he now knew the rules of the ancient human path. So he shook his head helplessly and said, after all, if the Wang family were to directly send an emperor-level expert to capture this prodigy from the ancient human path, it would be a direct violation of the human race's rules. It should be noted that among the human powerhouses present, there were those even stronger than the Wang family. If they send an emperor-level expert into the ancient human path, the City Lord's Mansion or the other two major families will definitely send an emperor-level expert to stop them. My Wang family's Daozi, Wang Dao, perished inside the ancient road of the human race. The Wang family is merely entering the ancient road of the human race to kill that outsider genius. I think the City Lord's Mansion and the other two major families shouldn't stop us. At this moment, the old matriarch of the Wang family simply waved her hand and said, a glint of light flashing in her eyes. The others immediately understood after hearing what the old lady of the Wang family said. Although there are rules concerning the human race within the ancient road of the human race, if the Dao child of the Wang family truly perished within it, then it would be perfectly normal for their great emperor to take action. The other two major families and the City Lord's Mansion will definitely wait and see. It's impossible for them to become enemies with the Wang family because of a mere outsider prodigy. So during this time, Wang Dao went to my Wang family's ancestral land to heal his injuries. As long as we deal with this outsider prodigy, regardless of whether the City Lord's Mansion and the two great families discover what we have done in the future, our strength will have already reached an unprecedented level. How could they possibly be our match? Then the matriarch of the Wang family spoke slowly again, her eyes filled with fervor and determination. Clearly, the current matriarch of the Wang family now has both the opportunity and the reason to take action against Chu Wuxuan. Chapter 835: The Choice of the Ancient Imperial City Lord's Mansion and the Silent Remains of Several Major Families. It can be said that old Madame Wang's plan was excellent. After all, they were originally one of the three major families in the Imperial Pass. Moreover, their royal family's Wang Dao perished within the ancient human path. Therefore, even if the players were enraged, it wouldn't be too surprising if they directly entered the ancient human path and killed the foreign prodigies there. Moreover, killing only a foreign prodigy is still acceptable to the human race inside the Imperial Pass. The other members of the Wang family reacted instantly upon hearing the words of the matriarch, and their eyes began to burn with fervor. After all, if they could really obtain the human emperor's inheritance this time, their Wang family strength would increase rapidly. At that time, their Wang family will be the most outstanding among all human races. Perhaps through this succession of the human emperor, they might be able to truly find the legendary immortal realm. It should be noted that most of the powerful cultivators who have reached the great emperor level are looking forward to the arrival of the immortal realm. Therefore, for them, immortality or the immortal realm is something they cannot refuse. Afterwards, the Wang family members began to discuss what kind of people they should send to capture this outsider prodigy. Ultimately, on the advice of the matriarch of the Wang family, a mid-stage great emperor was dispatched, namely the top expert of the Wang family, who was just now at the mid-stage great emperor level. If the Wang family has too many emperor-level experts, it will definitely raise the alarm among other families. Therefore, they naturally only chose to send out one powerful expert at the level of an emperor. Moreover, for them, sending a powerful expert at the level of an emperor was enough to bring this foreign prodigy to the country. Although this outsider prodigy was accompanied by a quasi-emperor level being. However, this quasi-emperor level being was of no use to them. In the face of a true emperor-level powerhouse, a quasi-emperor level being is nothing more than an ant. Meanwhile, as the Wang family dispatched this emperor-level powerhouse to the ancient human path, at this moment, the aura of a powerful emperor-level expert entering the ancient human path completely attracted the attention of other families. Take, for example, the city lord's mansion in the ancient imperial city. At this moment, the powerful figure, who was at the level of a second-generation emperor, also instantly locked his gaze in the direction of the Wang family. As the strongest in the ancient imperial city, he could clearly sense that the great emperor of the royal family had entered the ancient path of the human race. Then the second emperor of the city, lord's mansion, also frowned. He clearly hadn't expected the Wang family to break the rules. It's important to know that these rules weren't created by him alone. It was formulated by the former human emperor, or rather, by all the top experts of the human race. Otherwise, how would outsiders dare to enter the ancient road of the human race? However, the second emperor of the city lord's mansion soon received news from the Wang family. So it was that little guy Wang Dao who perished in the ancient human path. I didn't expect this outsider's talent to be so terrifying. He was able to kill Wang Dao of the Wang family in the ancient human path. He will definitely grow to the level of a great emperor in the future. But let's see if he can escape the Wang family's pursuit this time. Then, the second emperor of the city lord's mansion sighed and said that although he could stop the Wang family now, given the current situation of the human race and other races, stopping the Wang family now would lead to the division of the human race. If the human race were to engage in a major war with the demon race or other races, it would be difficult for them to withstand the onslaught. Although Chu Wuxuang was an outsider prodigy, and his talent had been recognized by the second emperor of the city lord mansion, he still did not think that Chu Wuxuang could compare to the entire Wang family. After all, the Wang family has several powerful figures at the level of great emperors. Their strength is enough to withstand many emperor-level beings of the demon race. Chu Wuxuang, on the other hand, was unable to withstand the great emperor of the demon clan. Therefore, the second emperor of the city lord's mansion has no other choice but to make this decision. Then the second emperor sighed silently. Then he slowly withdrew his gaze. It was as if he hadn't noticed that a powerful figure from the Wang family, at the emperor level, had entered the ancient path of the human race. The other families naturally noticed this scene as well. However, their choice was similar to that of the city lord's mansion. After all, for them, investing in Chu Wuxuang, this outsider prodigy, is an option now. However, they would never risk the wrath of the Wang family just to invest in a prodigy. After all, the Wang family lost one of their most outstanding talents this time. This person is capable of becoming a true emperor. Moreover, it can even break through to a higher realm. If such a top genius were to fall in their family, they would also choose to take action. At this moment, inside the Qin family's ancestral land, a young man, radiating a mysterious light, slowly opened his eyes. This person is Qin Zhan from the Qin family. He is also a very mysterious genius in the entire ancient imperial city. Of course, most importantly, he was known as the #1 person under the rule of the king, although no one has ever seen him make a move. However, it is clear that the aura emanating from him at this moment is extremely terrifying. If there were truly top-tier experts here, they would be able to tell that Qin Zhan possesses the legendary God King body. Although the divine king body cannot be compared with top-tier physiques, such as the ancient sacred body, but he also has a truly top-tier physique. Reaching the level of an emperor is achievable. I didn't expect Wang Dao to fall. It's a pity that I didn't really defeat him. But now that he's gone, I'm even more looking forward to this outsider prodigy. I hope he can escape the Wang family's pursuit this time. Then Qin Zhan leisurely turned his gaze toward the direction of the ancient road of the human race. After all, he had always regarded Wang Dao as his rival, and of course he was very disdainful of Wang Dao's actions. After all, for a true prodigy, the most important thing is to improve his own strength. Wang Dao was clearly eager to show off his strength. This is also why Qin Zhan doesn't want to fight against Wang Dao. However, Qin Zhan is now very much looking forward to Chu Wuxuang in the ancient road of the human race. After all, how could someone who could kill the king be simple? Then he leisurely turned his gaze toward the direction of the ancient human road. There was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. After all, if the Wang family were to actually kill this outsider prodigy, Qin Zhan felt somewhat helpless about his future. After all, that way he would have no real rivals. However, Qinzhan would not choose to help this outsider prodigy now. If he can't even survive this ordeal, then this outsider prodigy is not worthy of his attention. Chapter 836 Lu Bu appears, the arrogant emperor of the Wang family. Of course, at the same time that the Wang family sent out this emperor-level being. At this moment, Chu Wushuang, who is inside the ancient road of the human race, naturally also received the news. At this time, Chu Wushuang had already reached the 30th level of the ancient human path. It can be said that his speed of clearing the level was unprecedented and unparalleled, because it would take others at least several years or even decades to spread this information here. Even ordinary geniuses wouldn't be able to reach this place even after hundreds of years. Yet he arrived here so easily. If other prodigies knew this, they would definitely feel despair. At this moment, Chu Wushuang slowly raised her head and looked at the terrifying aura in the sky. Each level of the ancient human path carries terrifying laws. These laws enable the prodigies of the human race to grow rapidly. This is also why the prodigies of the human race in the ancient human path can grow up so quickly. After all, the ancient path of the human race was originally designed to help the prodigies of the human race grow. Even Chu Wushuang, in his current state, could grow rapidly by cultivating here. However, he could sense that the cultivation speed here was not as fast as inside the Time Tower of their Great Xia Empire. After all, the Time Tower of the Great Xia Empire is a treasure of time. It can quickly improve a person's abilities. Of course, Chu Wushuang wasn't thinking about these things right now, because he was about to face a powerful expert of the Wang family, who was at the level of an emperor. At this moment, Yang Xiling did not hesitate at all and appeared directly beside Chu Wushuang. After all, as a quasi-emperor at the peak of his realm, he could naturally feel that this terrifying aura was constantly heading towards the direction of the ancient road of the human race. More importantly, this terrifying aura has entered the ancient path of the human race and is currently only at the level of the great battle between Chu Wushuang and the Wang family. Because the Wang family's limitation is that one layer, even a powerful expert at the great emperor level needs to overcome each layer of obstacles. However, these challenges are extremely easy for powerful beings at the emperor level. Unexpectedly, the Wang family has sent a mid-stage great emperor this time, and this mid-stage great emperor is quite powerful. At this moment, a burly young man slowly appeared beside Chu Wushuang, carrying a halberd in his hand. This person was Lu Bu. After sensing the aura of this emperor-level expert from the Wang family, he appeared directly beside Chu Wushuang. Moreover, because he had been concealing his aura during this period, although the ancient road of the human race discovered his existence, it did not rule out Lu Bu. Moreover, Lu Bu would conceal his presence every time he entered a new level. If we kill this emperor of the Wang family this time, then we will be faced with an even stronger Wang family member. Apart from Lu Bu, we don't have anyone stronger here. It would take at least half a month for the experts of the Great Xia Empire to get here. At this moment, Chu Wushuang slowly looked up at the sky and said, although their Great Xia Empire's time tower has no restrictions. However, because the top experts of the Great Xia Empire did not come to the ancient road of the human race, it would take them at least half a month to enter the ancient road of the human race, or rather, the imperial pass of the human race, because they come from the outside world. As for Lu Bu, he came here with Chu Wushuang from the very beginning. Although he sometimes entered the time tower to cultivate, he left his aura here most of the time, so he was naturally able to appear here. The way to enter the Time Pagoda is your current location. After entering the Time Pagoda, you will exit at the same location where you entered. This is why Lu Bu always leaves his presence behind. Your Highness, since the Wang family dares to be so disrespectful to you, then let our Great Xia Empire send its top experts to annihilate the Wang family. At this moment, Lu Bu's eyes were also filled with anger. He hated that he was not strong enough. If he were strong enough, he would choose to destroy the entire Wang family. However, he didn't want the Wang family to have an easy time, so he planned to ask his prince to send the top experts of the Great Xia Empire to destroy the Wang family. Only in this way can he quell the hatred in his heart. We don't yet know how powerful the Wang family is, so we can't just send the top experts of the Great Xia Empire to the ancient human road so easily. Chu Wushuang shook his head after hearing Lu Bu's words. Although he also wanted to destroy the Wang family, they did not yet know how powerful the Wang family was. Therefore, they could only take action against the Wang family after the Luo Wang had thoroughly investigated the situation. They're here. Just as Lu Bu was about to say something, Yang Xiling also looked down with a solemn expression and said, while an extremely terrifying aura was constantly spreading throughout the entire sky. The next second, a middle-aged man slowly appeared in front of the three of them. The terrifying aura emanating from this middle-aged man was not concealed in the slightest. The aura of mid-stage Great Emperor instantly caused the entire space to tremble. However, Lu Bu snorted coldly after witnessing this scene. Then he took a step forward. The terrifying aura emanating from his body erupted instantly. The aura of the Great Emperor realm rushed towards the Great Emperor of the Wang family without the slightest hesitation. The Emperor Wang, who had been wearing an excited expression, was stunned when he sensed Lu Bu's aura. He clearly hadn't expected to encounter a true Emperor-level being here. However, the Emperor of the Wang family quickly realized what was going on. Although Lu Bu's realm is also at the Great Emperor level, the Wang family's quasi-emperor can sense that Lu Bu's strength is only at the early Great Emperor stage, so he is not afraid of Lu Bu at the moment. Because each small realm between the Great Emperor realms is like a world apart. I didn't expect that you, a prodigy from out of town, would be accompanied by an emperor. But do you think that this emperor alone can withstand my attack? Now, I'll give you two choices. Either obediently follow me back to the royal family, or I'll suppress this emperor beside you and then take you back to the royal family. Then, the middle-aged emperor of the Wang family slowly spoke, and as his voice fell, his aura suddenly rose to a higher level. Moreover, a long sword slowly appeared in his hand. The aura emanating from this long sword is powerful enough to suppress the entire sky. This caused the entire world to tremble. It seemed that even the ancient road of the human race could not withstand this terrifying blade energy. Chapter 837, The Great Emperor's War begins, piercing through the ancient path of humanity, under the watchful eyes of the Imperial Pass. Chu Wuxuang looked surprised after hearing what the Emperor of the Wang family said. He hadn't expected that this Emperor of the royal family would be so confident. However, Lu Bu now showed no respect to the Emperor of the Wang family. He quickly took another step forward. The terrifying aura emanating from his body erupted directly. Who do you think you are, daring to look down on my prince like this? It seems you're courting death. As soon as Lu Bu finished speaking, a halberd appeared in his hand, and at the same time, his aura instantly rose to another level. Moreover, he shot straight into the sky. A terrifying power emanated directly from the halberd in his hand. The next second, he directly charged towards the direction of the Emperor of the Wang family, wielding his halberd. The power emanating from the halberd was enough to shatter this entire world. The Emperor of the Wang family also narrowed his eyes upon seeing this scene. At the same time, he did not expect that the Emperor in front of him was so powerful. However, at this point, he could only helplessly use the large sword in his hand to defend himself. Then, the broadsword in his hand clashed with the halberd in Lu Bu's hand. The terrifying fluctuations instantly created a violent gaping hole in this world. At the same time, Yang Xiling quickly used the terrifying power within him to block the force from the two terrifying collision sounds. Your Highness, the power generated by their battle has already affected the ancient road of humanity. It is time for us to leave the ancient road of humanity. Yang Xiling looked helplessly at the direction of the battle between Lu Bu and the other man, and then looked into the distance with a worried expression. Since the impact of the battle between Lu Bu and this royal emperor has affected the entire ancient road of the human race, they should now leave the ancient road of the human race. Furthermore, they do not know how many powerful figures the Wang family has, so it is best for them to hide in this void for now. In this way, we can wait for the arrival of the true top experts of the Great Xia Empire. At that time, the true top experts of their Great Xia Empire will be able to completely annihilate the top experts of the Wang family, or the entire Wang family. Then let's leave the ancient road of the human race first. Chu Wuxuang was naturally aware of his current situation, so he waved his hand helplessly at Yang Xiling beside him and said. Then, the two transformed into two streaks of light and headed towards the gap created by the battle between Lu Bu and the Great Emperor Wang. Soon, the two figures disappeared into the ancient road of the human race. Meanwhile, Lu Bu and the Great Emperor of the royal family are engaged in a constant battle on the ancient human path. Both of them have reached the level of Great Emperor. Therefore, the power of the laws generated by each of their great battles is also a tremendous force. In just a short while, the ancient human path they were on was completely destroyed by them. Moreover, Lu Bu became increasingly fierce in battle at this time. He can now fight on par with the emperor of the royal family. It could even be said that Lu Bu currently holds a subtle but significant advantage. The emperor of the royal family was also greatly shocked to see this scene. Clearly, he hadn't expected that the early-stage great emperor he was facing was no weaker than himself. But how could Lu Bu possibly give him that chance now? He stood between heaven and earth like a demon god. At the same time, the halberd in his hand carried terrifying power, heading directly towards the great emperor of the Wang family in front of him. The next second, this terrifying force slammed directly into the body of the king. This caused him to crash directly onto the ancient road of the human race like a cannonball. The terrifying power instantly pierced through the entire ancient road of the human race. Then, the figure of the great emperor of the Wang family instantly appeared outside the ancient road of the human race. As for Lu Bu, he slowly walked out of the ancient human road, carrying his halberd like a demon god. He looked at the emperor of the Wang family with a murderous glint in his eyes. How could you be so strong? You are clearly a level weaker than me. At this moment, the great emperor of the Wang family looked at Lu Bu as if he had seen a ghost. He had obviously not expected that Lu Bu's strength had reached such a terrifying level. But how could Lu Bu possibly given that chance now? Lu Bu stared at the Emperor Wang without any response, then swung his halberd at the Emperor Wang once more. Seeing this, the Emperor of the Wang family could only use his long sword to defend against Lu Bu's attack. The two then engaged in another fierce battle in this void. At the same time, the power of their battle had completely affected the entire void. This caused the entire void to tremble. At the same time, the ancient human path was also completely affected. The terrifying power continued to spread towards the ancient road of the human race and the imperial pass of the human race. The powerful figures within the human imperial pass, who had not yet noticed this, all turned their gazes toward this place. Clearly, they hadn't expected this to happen. Especially now, the powerful emperors in the ancient imperial city have all awakened. They all looked at the direction of the two people fighting in the sky with a hint of surprise in their eyes. The old matriarch of the Wang family and the powerful emperor-level expert of the Wang family both had a sinister look in their eyes. Clearly, they hadn't expected that this outsider prodigy would be accompanied by an emperor-level being. It seems we underestimated this outsider prodigy. But since we've already made our move, let's go all out to eliminate any future troubles. Then, the matriarch of the Wang family spoke directly to the emperors beside her. After she finished speaking, the emperors looked up at the sky with a determined look in their eyes. Their eyes were all fixed on the great battle in the void. After all, they are now engaged in a major battle with this foreign force. So now they naturally have to take action to eliminate any future troubles. Then, without the slightest hesitation, these emperors broke through the void and headed towards the great battle within it. Clearly, they did not hesitate at all at this moment. Meanwhile, the powerful emperors of the Wang family were heading towards the battlefield in the void. At this moment, the city lord in the ancient imperial city was also looking at the battle in the void with a look of shock in his eyes, although the battle in the void was not particularly intense for him. But he never expected that this outsider genius would be accompanied by a great emperor. From this perspective, the power behind this outsider prodigy is not as simple as imagined. At the same time, the city lord also saw the figures of the great emperors of the Wang family heading to the void battlefield. The city lord of the ancient imperial city, upon seeing this, also had a hint of hesitation in his eyes, clearly pondering whether or not to stop the great emperor of the Wang family. Chapter 838 Attention from Jinxian City. Chu Wuxuang leaves the ancient road of the human race. After all, if the city lord doesn't intervene in this situation, so how will the entire ancient road of the human race and the imperial pass of the human race view him as the city lord of the ancient imperial city? As for the other two major families, although they also witnessed the great battle, they showed no intention of joining the fight. Instead, they turned all their attention towards the city lord's mansion. After all, they wanted to see what the city lord's mansion was planning. Moreover, it's not good for them to help either side. They never wanted to see the Wang family grow too powerful, so naturally they wouldn't help the Wang family. They weren't particularly clear about the power behind this outsider prodigy, so naturally they couldn't help him. Therefore, both families are now observing the great battle unfolding here. Above the 9 heavens, at the end of the human race's imperial pass, lies the Jinxian City, also known as the human race's Jinxian Palace. At this moment, the top experts of the human race all looked up at the ancient road of the human race. The fact that a battle between beings at the emperor level could not escape their notice was naturally not hidden from their eyes. Therefore, they all turned their attention to Lu Bu, who was engaged in a great battle, and the emperor of the royal family. They really don't take the rules of the ancient road of the human race seriously. The ancient road of the human race has only just opened, and a battle at the level of an emperor has already taken place. Isn't this a slap in the face to the human race? At this moment, a middle-aged man exuding a terrifying aura looked in the direction of Lu Bu and the other man and spoke, his eyes filled with anger. Clearly, the great battle between Lu Bu and the emperor of the Wang family angered him. Isn't one of the people in the battle a member of the Wang family? Wang Qingdao, aren't you going to go and take a look? At this moment, another old man slowly stepped forward, looked at the middle-aged man with a gloomy face beside him, and said, with a hint of schadenfreude on his face. Clearly, he also felt a sense of schadenfreude towards Wang Qingdao, and he hoped to see such a major event happen to the Wang family. After all, the entire ancient path of the human race is not just as simple as the Wang families. Alright, since it's a major battle below, let the people below handle it. Our Jinshin Palace doesn't need to concern ourselves with this. Just as the old man finished speaking, the young man in armor at the top slowly stepped forward and spoke. At the same time, one could feel an immense pressure emanating from him. The others who were about to speak fell silent instantly upon hearing the young man's words, their eyes showing no sign of displeasure. Instead, it carried a hint of fear. Clearly, they were filled with fear of this young man. This young man was none other than the martial emperor of the human race. He is also one of the pillars of the human race. Legend has it that his strength has reached the level of a true immortal. However, many people speculate that his cultivation level should be that of a remnant immortal. Even so, it can still intimidate the entire Jinshin Palace. They then turn their attention away. Since even the martial emperor doesn't intend to interfere, they naturally can't concern themselves with the battle between great emperor-level powerhouses on the ancient human road. Meanwhile, Lu Bu, who was engaged in a fierce battle, also sensed a series of terrifying auras approaching the direction of his battle. Then he quickly unleashed a strike at the royal emperor in front of him. The power emanating from the halberd was already terrifying. Therefore, the emperor of the Wang family did not hesitate at all and directly used his great sword to defend himself. Then he was blasted away by this terrifying force. The entire star field behind him was completely destroyed by his terrifying power. After doing all this, Lu Bu quickly came to Chu Wuxuang's side, looking at the streaks of light that were constantly approaching their star field with a worried look in his eyes. Your Highness, 4 great emperors are heading this way. They are likely the great emperors of the Wang family. I am no match for them alone, so please leave this void. Then, Lu Bu looked at Chu Wuxuang very seriously and spoke, his whole demeanor showing a hint of urgency. After all, his safety is not a big deal, but we can't let our prince get hurt right now. Otherwise, our emperor might wipe out the entire ancient human path. Your Highness, what we should do now is leave this void and wait for the experts of our great Xia Empire to arrive before settling scores with the Wang family. At this moment, Yang Xiling quickly stepped forward and spoke, his eyes filled with a fierce killing intent. After all, if their top experts from the great Xia Empire hadn't failed to arrive, so how could they possibly be afraid of the Wang family? The fact that a mere Wang family could force their peerless prince to avoid their attacks instantly made Yang Xiling feel a sense of humiliation. General Lu Bu, leave this void. At the same time, summon the emperor of my great Xia Empire. I, Your Highness, will destroy the Wang family. Chu Wuxuang's face showed anger at this moment. Then he glanced leisurely in the direction where the Wang family's emperor-level experts were rushing over before slowly speaking to Lu Bu. Clearly, Chu Wuxuang never expected that he would one day face such a situation. As the peerless prince of the great Xia Empire, he had never felt such humiliation before. Upon hearing Chu Wuxuang's words, Lu Bu quickly tore a huge void rift in front of him and then took Chu Wuxuang away from this void. Yang Xiling followed the two and left this void. Although the emperor of the Wang family finally realized what was happening, he could only watch helplessly as Lu Bu led Chu Wuxuang and the others away from this void. Even now, he can't find the direction of Lu Bu and the others. Although Lu Bu cultivated the law of power, however, his void law is not weak either. So now it was quite easy for them to leave this void with Chu Wuxuang. Not long after Lu Bu led Chu Wuxuang away from this void. Then, the old matriarch of the Wang family led the other 3 emperors of the Wang family into this void. At this time, they naturally sensed that Lu Bu and the foreign genius who possessed the human emperor law had disappeared. Therefore, the old matriarch of the Wang family now had a gloomy expression on her face. Clearly, he hadn't expected that Lu Bu could so easily take Chu Wuxuang away from here. In doing so, they not only offended Chu Wuxuang, this outsider prodigy. Moreover, they broke the rules of the ancient human path, so it can be said that they have gained no benefit whatsoever. Chapter 839, The Rise of Human Race's Prodigies on the Ancient Road, the choice of the ancient Emperor City Lord. Then, without the slightest hesitation, the matriarch of the Wang family turned her gaze directly to the several emperors of the Wang family. The look in her eyes simultaneously conveyed to the powerful figures at the emperor level within the Wang family what the matriarch of the Wang family was thinking. Then, the powerful emperors of the Wang family began searching for Lu Bu and his companions in the surrounding void. Others might think their main purpose is revenge. However, the great emperor of the Wang family was very clear that their primary objective was to find this extraordinary genius from elsewhere who possessed the human emperor's law. Meanwhile, in the city lord's mansion of the ancient imperial city, the city lord sighed after witnessing this scene. The other two major families watched this scene with schadenfreude. After all, compared to the Wang family being able to deal with this foreign emperor and foreign prodigy, what they most wanted to see was for this foreign emperor and foreign prodigy to leave the ancient human path. In that case, the Wang family might face attacks from two powerful figures at the level of great emperors in the future. This is naturally good news for them. Meanwhile, the Wang family was searching for the whereabouts of Lu Bu and his men. At this time, news about the ancient road of humanity was also thoroughly known to the talented individuals from both outside the region and those already on the ancient road. Thus, these prodigies stared at the void with awe in their eyes. Clearly, they hadn't expected such a thing to happen inside the ancient human path. I never expected that this genius who opened the ancient path of the human race would be hunted down by the Wang family. Is it really impossible for us outsiders to kill the geniuses in the human race's imperial paths within the ancient path of the human race? At this moment, a genius at the Saint King level looked at the sky with a hint of resentment in his eyes and said that he naturally knew very well why Chu Wushuang was being hunted down by the Wang family. If these outside geniuses truly cannot defeat the human geniuses within the imperial paths, then what meaning does the ancient road of humanity hold for them? And as soon as this outsider finished speaking, the other genius beside him also showed the same sentiment on his face. At the same time, angry expressions instantly appeared on the faces of these prodigies. If that's really the case, then what's the point of this ancient road of humanity for us? We might as well leave the ancient road of humanity now and hand it over to the geniuses inside the imperial paths of humanity. If it weren't for Chu Wushuang's talent and his powerful background, he would probably have been killed on the ancient road of the human race by now. I originally thought that the powerful figures in these human imperial passes would treat us human prodigies as equals, but I didn't expect that they would not take us seriously at all. Everyone, I'll go first. I plan to leave the ancient road of humanity first, because I don't want to die inexplicably on the ancient road of humanity. Brother, wait for me. I also plan to leave the ancient road of humanity and venture out into the outside world. As Chu Wushuang was being hunted down by the great emperor of the Wang family, the outside geniuses in the ancient road of the human race finally saw through the mentality of the powerful figures in the ancient road of the human race, or rather, the imperial paths of the human race. Therefore, many of the human prodigies planned to leave the ancient human path. After all, they didn't want to die here. Or perhaps they didn't want to die here without knowing why. After all, they can still grow even when they are out in the outside world. It's just that their growth rate outside is not as fast as their growth rate inside. But here, they're like meat on a chopping board. This is not what the outside world's elites want to see. Then, one group after another of the human race's prodigies began to slowly leave the ancient human path. Those who were originally the human race's elite talents in the imperial paths were filled with resentment upon witnessing this scene. They never imagined that the Wang family's affairs would turn their elite human prodigies in the imperial paths into a disgrace in the eyes of the outside human prodigies. The guardians of the human race's imperial paths were also quite helpless when they learned of all this. They also wanted to seek justice for these proud outsiders. However, the Wang family's strength far exceeded their expectations. Therefore, they could only helplessly watch as these foreign prodigies from the human imperial past left. News of what happened on the ancient road of the human race quickly reached the ancient imperial city. The city lord of the ancient imperial city had a very gloomy expression when he saw this scene, because he clearly hadn't expected the Wang family's influence to be so great. This instantly enraged the city lord of the ancient imperial city. If we don't step in now, then this ancient human path will probably be completely destroyed in our hands. The emperor standing beside the city lord spoke with a hint of anger in his eyes, clearly not expecting the final outcome to be like this. If these outside geniuses have no intention of venturing onto the ancient path of the human race, then how should their ancient imperial city explain itself to the Jinxian Palace? You must understand that if the geniuses of the ancient human path cannot reach the true immortal palace, then the city lord and city lord's mansion in the ancient imperial city will probably be completely destroyed by those top experts in the Jinxian Hall. After all of this was caused by the city lord of the ancient imperial city's negligence. We demand an explanation from the Wang family to the geniuses of the human race. If the Wang family fails to provide an explanation to the geniuses of the human race within the ancient road of humanity, then don't blame my city lord's mansion for taking direct action against the Wang family. At this point, the city lord of the ancient imperial city had no choice but to make the final decision, even though he knew that the Wang family in Jinxian City had several powerful ancestors. But now, if he doesn't make the Wang family make a decision, then he, the city lord, would probably be completely suppressed and killed by the human ancestors in the Jinxian Palace. Now, his only option is to suppress the Wang family. The news from the city lord's mansion quickly reached the Wang family. The old matriarch of the Wang family, who was still searching for clues about Chu Wuxuang, naturally also received the message from the City Lord's mansion. After seeing the message from the City Lord's mansion and learning about what had happened on the ancient road of the human race, the old matriarch of the Wang family was quite helpless. Originally, the matriarch of the Wang family planned to deal with Chu Wuxuang, this outsider prodigy, as quickly as possible. Even if this would have a negative impact on the geniuses from outside the ancient human path, it wouldn't have caused the current situation. If they don't give an explanation to the prodigy of the human race, then the entire Wang family would likely be infamous for millions of years. The city of Jinxian might even send stronger experts to suppress the Wang family. It should be noted that every powerful figure in the Jinxian palace is quite formidable. If those ancestors were really allowed to emerge from seclusion, then the Wang family will probably be directly suppressed and killed in the ancient imperial city. The faces of the Wang family emperors who were thinking about this also wore complex expressions. Chapter 840 The Treacherous Wang Family, the enraged Xian Yunpa and Chu Chun. Although they also desperately wanted to obtain the legacy of the human emperor, but now resolving all of this has become the most important thing. If they don't resolve this, then what awaits them is the boundless resentment of the human race's elite. At the same time, the human ancestor at the end of the ancient human road will also take direct action. At that time, the Wang family will be completely suppressed. Spread the word that Chu Wuxuang stole our Wang family's immortal artifact from Wang Dao, the Taoist of our Wang family. The main reason our Wang family recruited Chu Wuxuang, this human prodigy, was to get our immortal artifact back. However, because the great emperor behind Chu Wuxuang intervened, our Wang family had no choice but to take action. As the matriarch of the Wang family, who had lived for an unknown amount of time, how could she possibly give up on the Wang family so easily? So she quickly found an excuse. Moreover, they attributed all the blame to Chu Wuxuang. In that case, the Wang family wouldn't be considered to have broken the rules. After all, they only wanted to take back their Wang family's immortal artifact. But the one who actually made the move first was Chu Wuxuang, or rather, the powerful emperor-level expert behind him. They wanted to monopolize the Wang family's immortal artifacts, which is why they chose to directly attack the Wang family's emperor. After all, when the two emperors made their move, they directly pierced through the entire ancient road of the human race. Everyone witnessed the two emperors making their move. However, no one knows which of the two emperors made the first move. Therefore, the excuse given by the old lady of the Wang family is quite appropriate. Upon hearing the words of the old matriarch of the Wang family, the several emperors immediately understood, and a bright light instantly appeared in their eyes. If that's really the case, then they have a legitimate reason to act. It's even possible that they could actually capture that genius from the outside world who possesses the human emperor's law. Following the decisions made by the old madam of the Wang family and the emperor of the Wang family, this news quickly spread throughout the entire ancient human race's path. Meanwhile, the City Lord's mansion inside the ancient human road also received this news. At this moment, the City Lord of the ancient imperial city had a very gloomy face after receiving the message from the Wang family, but he could only give up at this point. Lord of the city, are we really going to just let the Wang family go unchecked? At this moment, the great emperor, standing next to the City Lord of the ancient emperor city, stood up with some dissatisfaction and said that he was well aware that the Wang family was shirking their responsibility, and he also understood that the players would not throw away the immortal artifact. All of this is a slander by the Wang family. Therefore, he is now somewhat dissatisfied and resentful. What good would it do for us to go out and oppose them now? If we go out and oppose them now, then we would have to suppress the entire Wang family. Do you think we have the strength to suppress the Wang family? And after we suppress the Wang family, what should we do when we face the ancestors of the Wang family? At this moment, the City Lord of the ancient imperial city waved his hand helplessly. It could be said that, for him, the decision made by the Wang family was the most appropriate one. If the Wang family doesn't give an explanation to the people of the world, or to the geniuses of the ancient human path, then it's no surprise that the City Lord's mansion will take action against the Wang family. This is something the City Lord of the ancient imperial city does not want to see. This is why he chose to make the Wang family give an explanation to the prodigies in the ancient human path. The emperor beside him shook his head helplessly after hearing his words. However, he also understood what his City Lord was worried about. As for the other two great families in the ancient imperial city, they couldn't help but sneer after hearing the Wang family's explanation, because they all knew that the Wang family was pushing all the blame onto this outsider prodigy. However, they cannot stand up against the Wang family now. After all, if they really oppose the Wang family now and cause the geniuses on the ancient human road to riot, then their two families will become sinners again. Then all the blame will once again be directed at their two families. Therefore, the two families have no choice but to give up. Soon, news that the Wang family's immortal artifact had been snatched away by Chu Wuxuang, a prodigy from elsewhere, spread throughout the entire ancient road of the human race. Although many talented individuals did not believe this explanation. However, as more and more people spread the word, many prodigies had no choice but to believe this fact. Of course, one could argue that the ancient human path allowed them to grow rapidly, so they found an excuse that satisfied them. Therefore, these prodigies continued their adventures on the ancient human path. However, these prodigies all harbored a sense of apprehension towards the prodigies within the human race imperial pass. After all, who knew if the prodigies within the human race imperial pass would be as unreasonable as the Wang family? Therefore, the geniuses outside the human race and the geniuses inside the imperial pass gradually began to divide into two camps. Meanwhile, on the 11th level of the ancient human path stood two prodigies exuding a terrifying aura, one of whom was wearing a fiery red suit of armor. He stared into the distance with a hint of anger in his eyes. The other person was dressed in a magnificent black robe. At the same time, one can see that there is still a hint of gloom in his eyes. I didn't expect that Wuxuang would be hunted down by the Wang family as soon as he arrived at the ancient road of the human race. The Wang family is really outrageous. At this moment, the young man dressed in a black robe looked into the distance with a gloomy expression and said that he was Chu Chun, the Prince of Jinbei of the Great Xia Empire. Shortly after Chu Wuxuang opened the ancient road of the human race, he arrived at the ancient road of the human race. I never expected to hear such news about my nephew. This instantly enraged him. The Wang family is really courting death. How could His Highness Wuxuang possibly steal their Wang family's immortal artifact? This is clearly just an excuse they came up with to block the outside world's geniuses. At this moment, the young man dressed in a fiery red battle armor looked angrily at the horizon and said that he was Xianyuan Pa from the Xianyuan family. He also followed Chu Chun into the ancient human path. The two of them were already aware of the great battle between Chu Wuxuang and the Wang family. I never expected that such news would come from the Wang family. This instantly enraged Xianyuan Pa. He had great confidence in his peerless prince. He knew, of course, that his peerless prince would never do such a thing. Therefore, Xianyuan Pa guessed the Wang family's plan. Now I just hope Wuxuang is alright, otherwise my Great Xia Empire will completely destroy the entire royal family. At this moment, Chu Chun looked towards the end of the ancient road of the human race with a hint of worry and said, although Chu Wuxuang does have Lu Bu, a powerful emperor, protecting her. However, the Wang family has mobilized so many emperor-level figures this time. I think we should mobilize a large army to suppress the entire Wang family now. I will send a message to the Xianyuan family to ask them to bring the real Blazing Fire Legion. Then we can help His Highness Wuxuang suppress the entire Wang family. Xianyuan Pa couldn't stand it any longer. He quickly took out a command token and input his thoughts into it, clearly intending to inform his emperor about the situation. Chu Chun saw this scene, but did not choose to stop Xianyuan Pa, because this great battle will continue no matter what. So it's better to let the storm rage on. Chapter 841, Chu Wuxuang returns to the Great Xia Empire and mobilizes the Great Xia Empire's troops. Moreover, he was well aware that his nephew was currently gathering the top experts of the Great Xia Empire. So if a great war is going to happen, then let the entire human race of the empire know how powerful the Great Xia Empire is. And just as Chu Chun had guessed, Chu Wuxuang, Lu Bu, and Yang Xilang appeared in his universe after leaving the ancient human path. The three of them then returned to the Great Xia Empire at top speed. Chu Wuxuang, who had just returned to the Great Xia Empire, was also extremely angry. Clearly, he had no intention of making any concessions at this point. Then Chu Wuxuang went directly to the main hall of the Great Xia Empire. He never imagined that one day he would be driven back to this universe by the humans from the ancient Starry Road, so he naturally had no intention of making any concessions now. After Chu Wuxuang returned, several top experts from the Great Xia Empire sensed his presence. At the same time, Zhuge Liang was even more surprised that his prince had returned in such a short time. So Zhuge Liang quickly arrived at Chu Wuxuang's side. Of course, besides Zhuge Liang, there were also Tianjizi and others, and even Chu Wuxuang's grandfather Chu Tianxiong and others had appeared here, because they are still unaware of what happened on the ancient road of humans. Therefore, they were naturally curious about Chu Wuxuang's return. Wuxuang, did you successfully break through the ancient Starry Road? At this moment, Chu Tianxiong looked at Chu Wuxuang with a hint of curiosity and said that he had great confidence in his grandson. After all, Chu Wuxuang's strength had reached the quasi-emperor realm. It should be noted that many of today's geniuses are still in the saintly realm. This clearly demonstrates just how powerful Chu Wuxuang truly is. Chu Wuxuang looked somewhat helpless after hearing Chu Tianxiong's words, and an awkward expression could be seen on his face. This time, he escaped from the ancient human path. Of course, if it were a head-on confrontation, Lu Bu could indeed defeat one of the great emperors of the royal family. However, this time the Wang family mobilized more than just one emperor-level figure. I killed a prodigy on the ancient road of the human race, which aroused the revenge of a family in the imperial pass of the human race, so I had no choice but to let Lu Bu lead me back to this universe. Then Chu Wushuang explained to Chu Tianxiong with some helplessness, and you could see a hint of helplessness and embarrassment in his eyes. After all, this was the first time he had ever suffered a setback. Who dares to let His Highness return from the ancient starry road? How strong is this family? If they're not strong, we will wipe them out. If they are strong, we will mobilize the resources of our great Xia Empire. Upon hearing this, Dian Wei, who was standing nearby, could no longer sit still. Although Dian Wei had not yet broken through to the great emperor realm. However, he can still fight against ordinary early-stage great emperors, so Dian Wei's current strength is indeed quite good. The Starry Sky Ancient Road has offended a royal family. The most powerful member of their family should be the second emperor. The one who is chasing your highness is a first emperor leading 4 emperors, including 2 who are at the perfect emperor level, 1 who is at the late stage of emperor level, and 1 who is at the middle stage of emperor level. As an emperor level being, Lu Bu could naturally sense the aura emanating from the Wang family members, so he spoke with a hint of anger on his face. After all, he never imagined that he would one day run away from someone else's place and come back. So now he wants to get revenge. Prime Minister, mobilize the great snow dragon riders. At the same time, have 2 experts from the 3 generations of the great Xia Empire's emperors and 10 experts who have broken through to the emperor level dispatched. This prince intends to completely annihilate the royal family. At this moment, Chu Wushuang directly instructed Zhuge Liang in front of him. As the eldest prince of the great Xia Empire, he was naturally qualified to mobilize the great snow dragon riders of the great Xia Empire. At the same time, he also planned to mobilize the 3 emperors of the great Xia Empire. Although the old matriarch of the Wang family was only a first-generation emperor, but now, Chu Wushuang plans to crush the royal family directly. Only in this way can he avenge his deep-seated hatred. Your subject obeys the order. After hearing Chu Wushuang's words, Zhuge Liang cupped his hands in greeting and then issued an order to transfer the great snow dragon cavalry of the great Xia Empire. Subsequently, the military camps in Chang'an, the capital of the great Xia Empire, were thrown into turmoil. This time, the number of great snow dragon riders mobilized reached 10,000. Of course, mobilizing 10,000 great snow dragon riders is enough. After all, every great snow dragon rider is at the great sage level. Among them, there are hundreds of beings at the quasi-emperor level. Moreover, there is also Chen Jibao, a mid-stage emperor. Therefore, this single great snow dragon rider is already capable of overwhelming an emperor-level force. Your Highness, a powerhouse at the level of a 3rd-generation emperor, can mobilize the Void Emperor and the Eternal Universe Emperor. Since the Void Emperor and the Eternal Universe Emperor have just broken through to the 3rd-generation emperor level, it will probably take them some time to break through to the 4th-generation emperor level. Therefore, they can accompany your Highness to the ancient Star Road now. At this moment, Zhuge Liang, who had just finished defeating the great snow dragon rider, slowly turned around and looked at Chu Wushuang respectfully, saying, the number of great emperors of the great Xia Empire is not particularly large, but right now, the Void Emperor and the Hongyu Emperor are the ones who can go on the expedition. After all, the 2 of them had just broken through to the 3rd generation of emperors not long ago. However, your Highness should bring the Spear Emperor with you. During this period, the Spear Emperor has also broken through to the 7th Emperor, so if your Highness brings him along, you can withstand even stronger opponents. However, Zhuge Liang quickly turned his gaze to Chu Wushuang and said, of course, this time it was a suggestion, although the Void Emperor and the Eternal Universe Emperor could solve all of this. However, Zhuge Liang felt that Chu Wushuang should have someone even stronger by his side. For example, this Gun Emperor recently broke through to the level of a 7th Emperor. Moreover, as the number 1 master of the spear, he was able to fight against a powerful figure like the 8th Emperor, even at the level of the 7th Emperor. Therefore, with him by their side, Zhuge Liang and the others did not need to worry about Chu Wushuang's safety. After hearing Zhuge Liang's words, Chu Wushuang frowned and then nodded. After all, he should indeed be accompanied by a stronger figure. And this gun master is the best choice. Of course, he could also bring that Sword Emperor along, since the Sword Emperor had also broken through to the level of a 6th-generation Great Emperor during this period. Their strength is among the best in the entire universe. As long as those powerful immortals at the Heavenly God Academy don't make a move, the Sword Emperor is invincible. After all, as the number 1 swordsman, he can also fight opponents of higher levels. Chapter 842, The Great Xia Empire's Luxurious Lineup, the Xianyuan family's Fiery Legion. Moreover, Chu Wuxuang, who was heading to the Void Ancient Road, also knew that the Wang family was not as simple as he had imagined. Because there is an ancestor of the royal family on the human race's stone tablet, his strength must have reached a higher level. Therefore, bringing Gun Emperor along can also ensure his safety. I wonder which entities the Prime Minister thinks should be mobilized, given their status as emperors. Then Chu Wuxuang slowly turned his gaze to Zhuge Liang in front of him and asked, although there aren't many experts of other levels in their Great Xia Empire. However, the Great Xia Empire has quite a few beings at the Great Xia level, because during this period, Chu Fan summoned a powerful being of the level of the strange Scorpion Emperor. At the same time, many powerful figures from the former Great Xia Empire also broke through to the Emperor level. Your Highness can mobilize Yuan Qingdu and others who are at the Great Emperor level, because they are all good Great Emperors. Moreover, Xiang Yu and Li Yuanba have also broken through to the mid-stage of Great Emperor. Your Highness can take them to train on the Void Ancient Road. Ji Hao Yue and Jiang Taishu also broke through to the Great Emperor Perfection realm some time ago. This time, Your Highness can also take the two of them to the Void Ancient Road. After hearing Chu Wuxuang's words, Zhuge Liang slowly expressed his opinion. The Great Xia Empire had a considerable number of Emperor-level beings. Therefore, this time Zhuge Liang proposed to send out Ji Hao Yue and Jiang Taishu, who were at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. During this period, both of them successfully broke through to the Great Emperor Perfection realm. Although they weren't among the top experts in the entire Great Xia Empire, their strength was unmatched among those at the Great Emperor level. As for those in the late stage of the Great Emperor realm, Zhuge Liang planned to mobilize Shimin Chuexiu, Yi Guqing, and De Qiubai, as the three of them had also successfully broken through to the late stage of the Great Emperor realm. Perhaps it's because the three of them were originally true masters of swordsmanship. Therefore, the three people who came to this world broke through at a very fast pace. Of course, the three of them had been cultivating for a very long time. He has been cultivating inside the Time Pagoda for tens of thousands of years. Therefore, their strength naturally improved rapidly. Meanwhile, Zhuge Liang, who was at the mid-stage of the Great Emperor realm, planned to have Chu Wuxuang lead Xiang Yu, Li Yuanba, and Dongfang Bai, all of whom had reached the mid-stage of the Great Emperor realm. Moreover, each of them is an invincible existence in the mid-stage of the Great Emperor realm. Or rather, they're beings capable of fighting opponents of higher levels. In the early stages of the Great Emperor's reign, Yuan Qingdu and Pei Yuanqing could be brought along. Moreover, Yuan Qingdu is now only one step away from breaking through to the mid-stage of the Great Emperor realm. Perhaps this battle will allow him to achieve a breakthrough. The number given by Zhuge Liang was exactly 10 Great Emperors, not including Chen Jibao, who had already broken through to the Great Emperor realm, and Lu Bu, who was already following Chu Wuxuang. During this period, Chen Jibao also broke through to the mid-stage of the Great Emperor realm with his talent and strength, making him a terrifying existence. All right, we will follow the Prime Minister's arrangements. Chu Wuxuang naturally had no objection to Zhuge Liang's arrangements. On the contrary, she intended to proceed directly according to them. After all, this time the numbers were enough to completely overwhelm the entire Wang family. However, Your Highness will have to wait a while, because the Xianyuan family will send an army to support you, so Your Highness may have to wait for that army from the Xianyuan family. As the Prime Minister of the Great Xia Empire, Zhuge Liang had naturally received the message from the Xianyuan family, so he cupped his hands in greeting to Chu Wuxuang. Since the Xianyuan family wants to help my Great Xia Empire, then let's wait for them for a while. Chu Wuxuang naturally knew about the relationship between the Xianyuan family and their Great Xia Empire, so he nodded directly to Zhuge Liang and then began to wait for the Xianyuan family's army. As for Chu Tianxiong and the others, they looked at Chu Wuxuang with a hint of worry. However, they didn't say anything at this point. After all, it was Chu Wuxuang's father, Emperor Chu Fan, who once led the Great Xia Empire to conquer, so it was only natural for Chu Wuxuang to go and fight now. Meanwhile, the Xianyuan family's army was steadily advancing towards the Great Xia Empire. They made no attempt to conceal their actions. It instantly attracted the attention of the entire central continent. This time, the army dispatched by the Xianyuan family was the Blazing Fire Legion. The Blazing Fire Legion is the Fire Legion, one of the 5 elemental legions of the Xianyuan family. It was also the legion led by the young Marshal Xianyuan Pe. Of course, Xianyuan Pe would only lead this legion if he truly broke through to the Quasi-Emperor realm. The current commander of this legion is a powerful member of the Xianyuan family who achieved enlightenment through unconventional means. This legion consists of 10,000 beings at the Saint King level or above. Among them, there are over 1,000 beings at the Great Sage level. There are dozens of quasi-emperors, and the one who achieved a unique path to enlightenment is the powerful member of the Xianyuan family who commands this army. Even so, this army could sweep away most top-tier forces. Soon this army traversed the entire central region and arrived outside Chang'an City of the Great Xia Empire. The aura emanating from this army was also extremely terrifying. Chu Wuxuang naturally sensed the aura emanating from this army at this moment. Then a smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect the Xianyuan family to send out their blazing fire legion this time. It seems that this must be Xianyuan Po's idea. Chu Wuxuang naturally recognized the name of this army, so he said with a smile, and then slowly led the few people around him toward the army. At this moment, the two people following Chu Wuxuang were the Void Emperor and the Hanyu Emperor. As for those behind them, they're emperors of the Great Xia Empire. This time, Chu Wuxuang brought a very impressive lineup. Meanwhile, the Gun Master was hiding in the shadows, protecting Chu Wuxuang. At the same time, the Great Snow Dragon Riders, led by Chun Zhibao, were waiting for Chu Wuxuang outside Chang'an City of the Great Xia Empire. Soon Chu Wuxuang appeared in front of the two armies. On the right are the Great Snow Dragon Riders of the Great Xia Empire, and on the left is the Blazing Fire Legion of the Xianyuan family. We pay our respects to your highness. As soon as Chu Wuxuang came out, both the army of the Great Xia Empire and the army of the Xianyuan family bowed to him respectfully and said something. Generals, please rise. I presume you all know the ultimate purpose for which I have summoned you here today. Chu Wuxuang then slowly stepped forward and looked at the two armies in front of him, speaking again without waiting for their reply. Follow me on the ancient road through the stars to destroy the royal family. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present became extremely excited. A fierce killing intent flashed in Chen Jibao's eyes. He hasn't had a real major battle in a long time, so he was naturally very excited. Chapter 843 Chu Wuxuang leads his army on an expedition. The heartless demoness Chu Yin ran on the ancient human path, following Chu Wuxuang's issuance of the order. He then immediately drove his father, Emperor Chu Fan's Qilin chariot out once again. After all, his mission this time was to wipe out the entire Wang family, so he naturally needed to make a grand entrance. The current Golden Kirin chariot is the most luxurious lineup. Leading the way were Lu Bu and Yuan Qingdu. Both of them were emperor-level beings. Therefore, having two people lead the way is the most suitable option. As for the Qilin chariot, it was guarded by powerful figures at the level of emperors from the Great Xia Empire. In particular, with the Void Emperor and Hanyu Emperor of the Great Xia Empire directly on either side of the Qilin chariot. Even if a true fourth-generation emperor were to launch a sneak attack on Chu Wuxuang, it would be impossible for him to succeed. Moreover, the Gun Emperor, the seventh emperor, is also lurking in the shadows. The two armies following behind him were the Great Snow Dragon Riders led by Chun Zhibao and the Blazing Fire Legion led by a powerful figure from the Xianyuan family who had achieved enlightenment through unconventional means. This caused a silver-white streak and a fiery red streak to appear in the entire sky. Like two shooting stars, they headed straight for the ancient road in the depths of the void. The top powers across the continent all focused their attention on these two streaks of light. Two powerful beings at the level of remnant immortal have awakened at the Heavenly God Academy. They all looked at the two streaks of light in the sky, which resembled shooting stars, with a hint of surprise in their eyes. Is this the strength of the Great Xia Empire? I didn't expect that the Great Xia Empire would send more than a dozen great emperors to enter the Starry Sky Ancient Road this time, and two of them have even reached the level of three-generation great emperors. Are they going to destroy the Starry Sky Ancient Road? One of the remnant immortals looked at Chu Wuxuang and his group in the sky with a puzzled expression, but a hint of disdain could be seen in his eyes. With their limited strength, how could they possibly destroy the entire Ancient Star Road? You must know that there are quite a few top experts in the Ancient Star Road of our human race alone. Although their strength is not weak, they naturally cannot destroy the Ancient Star Road. The other immortal, however, spoke with utter disdain. At the same time, you can see a hint of expectation in his eyes. He was hoping that the people of the Great Xia Empire would be driven back by the powerful figures from the Ancient Star Road. It should be noted that the Ancient Star Road is not only home to powerful humans, but also to powerful demons, dragons, and even gods. It can be said that the Starry Sky Ancient Road is the most complex. Of course, the Starry Sky Ancient Road wasn't of much use to them either. Or rather, the Ancient Starry Road is a place where powerful forces cultivate emperor-level beings. Therefore, it naturally has little effect on those who have already broken through to the Emperor level. However, for beings below the Great Emperor level, the Ancient Void Road is the best place to break through to the Great Emperor realm. Of course, it wasn't just the Heavenly God Academy that discovered this scene. The supreme beings in those forbidden zones also awakened one after another. However, When they saw the direction of Chu Wuxuang and the others, they showed no reaction. After all, as long as it did not affect their slumber, it was not a big problem for them. Meanwhile, Chu Wuxuang led his army into the depths of the void. Soon, his team set off directly onto the ancient Starry Road. Meanwhile, the prodigies along the ancient Starry Road were constantly growing stronger. Half a month has passed since Chu Wuxuang was hunted down by the Wang family. Although some people are still discussing Chu Wuxuang, this peerless genius from elsewhere, many more human geniuses are now constantly striving to reach higher levels on the ancient path of humanity. Moreover, the ancient path of the human race was originally designed to train the most outstanding talents of the human race. Therefore, these human prodigies have also made great progress. Even Chu Chun and Xin Yuanpa had reached the 20th floor, and the two were constantly trying to overcome the challenges. At the same time, he continuously absorbed the power of these laws within the ancient human path to enhance his strength. Of course, at this time, a peerless genius also appeared on the ancient road of the human race. She was a woman wearing a fiery red robe. The woman had an exceptionally beautiful face, but she appeared very aloof. This person is Princess Chu Yanran of the Great Xia Empire. She was originally supposed to arrive at the Starry Sky Ancient Road before Xin Yuanpa and the others. However, because Chu Yanran stayed in the depths of the void for a longer period of time, she arrived at the ancient Starry Road in the depths of the void behind the others. Chu Yanran, who had just arrived at the human race Ancient Road of the Starry Sky Ancient Road, also heard news about her royal brother, and thus became somewhat angry. So when she first arrived at the Ancient Road of the human race, she launched an attack on the human prodigies in the Imperial Pass. Every human prodigy in the Imperial Pass who encountered Chu Yanran was defeated by her. In particular, she ruthlessly killed the pride of the Wang family. This also earned Chu Yanran the title of a heartless witch. Everyone avoids her like the plague. However, many prodigies soon discovered that Chu Yanran was not particularly averse to the prodigies from the outside world, and she had not even launched any attacks against them. This has led many people to speculate. I never expected that this heartless witch would be so powerful. In just a few days, she killed 3 of the Wang family's holy sons. You should know that there are only 10 holy sons in the Wang family. Now she has killed 3 of them. In addition, one of them had already fallen at the hands of that genius Chu Wuxuang. Now there are only 6 holy sons left in the Wang family. At this moment, one of the outside geniuses couldn't help but sigh. They had been on the ancient road of the human race for so long, and had learned about the major families and their holy sons in the imperial pass of the human race. They just didn't expect that the royal family's holy son would perish so quickly. Being the holy son of the Wang family is truly a high-risk profession. I'm afraid it won't be long before they're all killed by this ruthless witch. What I'm more curious about is what grudge this heartless witch has against the royal family's holy son that she's so fixated on the Wang family. Yes, and she's not friendly to the geniuses inside the human race imperial pass. Is it because of that genius who opened the ancient road of the human race? Perhaps that is indeed the case. After all, this heartless, which is quite powerful, and the genius who opened the ancient path of our human race also has terrifying talent. Perhaps the two of them come from the same universe. Many prodigies are now speculating about Chu Yanran's identity, while others believe that Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang are closely related. After all, if Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang had no relationship, why would she be so fixated on the Wang family's holy son? After all, Chu Yanran had killed 3 royal family sons in a short period of time. Therefore, more and more people are speculating about whether there is a relationship between Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang. Chapter 844: The Angry Wang Family. The Wang family speculations about Chu Yanran's identity. Of course, many of the geniuses from the ancient human race road also started to cause trouble for Chu Yanran at the beginning. However, after discovering Chu Yanran's formidable strength, they could only leave in humiliation. Moreover, the Wang family disciples, after the deaths of 3 holy sons, dared not appear before Chu Yanran. They even ran away at the mere mention of Chu Yanran's name. Over time, Chu Yanran completely transformed into a heartless witch on the ancient human path. However, Chu Yanran didn't particularly care about any of this. All she wants now is to kill all the disciples of the Wang family. Of course, many things happened to the Wang family during this time. At first, they were searching for Chu Wuxuang's whereabouts, but because Chu Wuxuang returned to his own universe. Therefore, even the powerful emperors of the Wang family could not find Chu Wuxuang's whereabouts. So, after searching for only a few days, the emperors of the Wang family returned to the Wang family. Having just returned, they had also heard about Chu Yanran from the ancient human path. At this moment, the emperor and quasi-emperor level experts of the Wang family were all in the Wang family's main hall, especially the old matriarch of the Wang family, whose face was filled with anger. He hadn't expected that so much time had passed without finding the whereabouts of that human prodigy. The reason they were so determined to find Chu Wuxuang was because Chu Wuxuang possessed the human emperor's law. After so much time, we still haven't found this outsider prodigy. Obviously, he must have left the ancient road of humanity, or rather, he has left the ancient road of stars. At this moment, the old man from the Wang family couldn't help but stand up and speak, and you could see a hint of helplessness on his face. Although he also wanted to unlock the legacy left by the human emperor. However, the owner of the human emperor's law who was able to open the human emperor's secret realm has now left the ancient star road. No matter how powerful the Wang family is, it is impossible for them to go to other worlds to find the owner of the human emperor's law. After all, no world is as simple as we imagine. If they could leave the ancient starry road at will. So the current matriarch of the Wang family has probably already found the possessor of the human emperor's law. Although he has left the ancient starry road, it doesn't mean he won't return to it. You should know that the ancient starry road is the best place for geniuses who haven't yet reached the great emperor level to grow. At this moment, the matriarch of the Wang family spoke quietly, and after she finished speaking, there was a hint of murderous intent in her eyes. Clearly, even the matriarch of the Wang family had not expected that this time. Even with the help of an emperor-level being, they still couldn't bring back the possessor of the human emperor's law. This time, they completely broke ties with the city lord's mansion. More importantly, they also offended this external force. Although it is unknown how powerful the forces behind Chu Wuxuang are. However, the fact that he, a mere prodigy, has an emperor-level expert protecting him shows that the power behind Chu Wuxuang is far from simple. Ancestor, I think we should pay attention to the ancient road of the human race now. Perhaps this outsider genius will reappear on the ancient road of the human race, or perhaps he will appear on the ancient road of another race. After all, not only can the geniuses of the human race enter the ancient road of the human race, but he's also the #1 genius who opened the ancient road of our human race. At this moment, another powerful expert from the Wang family, who was at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm, slowly stepped forward and spoke. After he finished speaking, there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. The Wang family has hundreds of quasi-emperors, with more than 10 of them reaching the perfect quasi-emperor realm. Of course, the Wang family has no members who have achieved the alternative path to enlightenment. Because there is a big difference between the human race's imperial territory and the outside world, meaning that within the human race's empire, there is plenty of time for them to break through to the great emperor realm. After all, each family holds the secret to extending the lifespan of quasi-emperors. Therefore, they naturally have more time to break through to the great emperor realm. This is also why they don't choose to break through to an alternative path to enlightenment. Choosing to break through to an alternative path to enlightenment is a choice only made by humans outside the human race. Humans within the imperial pass would not choose this path. Instead, they would choose to directly break through to the great emperor realm. This is also why the Wang family did not achieve enlightenment through unconventional means. Ancestor, I have some information that might lead us to Chu Wuxuang. While we were chasing Chu Wuxuang, a peerless genius appeared on the ancient road of the human race. This genius has good talent, and more importantly, he killed 3 of my Wang family's holy sons on the ancient road of the human race. Just as everyone heard the words of this quasi-emperor at the peak of his realm, another quasi-emperor from the Wang family, also at the peak of his realm, slowly stepped forward and spoke, a hint of interest appearing on his face. Clearly, news about Chu Yanran had reached him during this time. After all, the loss of 3 holy sons in the Wang family is no small matter. What? Someone actually dared to kill 3 of my Wang family's holy sons in the ancient human road. Upon hearing this news, the great emperor of the Wang family could no longer remain seated. He had never imagined that someone would actually kill 3 of their Wang family's holy sons on the ancient human path. The Wang family's prodigies, who are at the level of saints, will at least reach the quasi-emperor realm when they grow up, and they even have a great chance of becoming emperors. Therefore, the loss of 3 people naturally made him extremely angry. The other members of the Wang family were also furious upon hearing this news. They clearly hadn't expected anyone to dare to kill their family's holy sons repeatedly on the ancient human path. What is the connection between his killing of my royal family's holy son and that outsider prodigy Chu Wuxuang? At this moment, the matriarch of the Wang family grasped the key point. She frowned and looked at the quasi-emperor at the peak of the realm. After speaking, she had some guesses in her mind. This outsider prodigy who killed 3 of my Wang family's holy sons is named Chu Yanran. She shares the same surname as Chu Wuxuang. More importantly, her strength is terrifying. After arriving at the ancient road of the human race, she targeted the prodigies of my Wang family, slaughtering them all. Moreover, she was not particularly friendly to the human prodigies in the imperial pass. Therefore, I suspect that she has a great relationship with Chu Wuxuang. As soon as the old matriarch of the Wang family finished speaking, the quasi-emperor of the Wang family spoke to her very seriously. Of course, he also directly stated his guess. After all, Chu Yanran's actions were closely related to avenging Chu Wuxuang. If she wasn't seeking revenge for Chu Wuxuang, then why was she constantly killing members of the Wang family? Chapter 845, The Wang Family's Choice, the Human Martial Emperor's Helplessness. Upon hearing the speculation of this quasi-emperor of the Wang family, the old matriarch and the rest of the Wang family immediately began to ponder. If the facts are indeed as this quasi-emperor from the Wang family guessed, then capturing Chu Wuxuang would be extremely easy for them. If they can capture Chu Yanran now, how could Chu Wuxuang possibly escape? After all, if Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang are related, then their relationship is definitely not as simple as it seems. If Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang are related, then our Wang family would need to deploy at least an emperor-level expert to capture her. After all, Chu Wuxuang is protected by quasi-emperor and emperor-level experts, so Chu Yanran must also have a quasi-emperor-level expert by her side, and at least a quasi-emperor at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm. The emperor from the Wang family who attacked Lu Bu then slowly stepped forward and spoke, a serious look in his eyes. If they really intend to attack Chu Yanran, then they cannot do it the same way they did to Chu Wuxuang at the beginning. Otherwise, they might not even be able to capture Chu Yanran in the end. At that time, they will even have to bear the burden of breaking the rules of the ancient human path once again. Upon hearing the words of the great emperor of the Wang family, the old matriarch of the Wang family instantly understood his meaning, and thus began to ponder silently. Now she also guessed that there was a big relationship between Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang. Let's first determine the relationship between the two. If Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang really have a great relationship, then let's directly send two great emperors. I don't believe that Chu Yanran has two great emperors by her side. Then, our matriarch waved her hand at everyone present and said something, followed by a very gloomy look in her eyes. After all, Chu Wuxuang had tricked her, so naturally she couldn't let Chu Yanran off so easily now. Of course, this is on the premise that Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang have a very close relationship. If there is no relationship between Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang, then just kill her. After all, the holy son of my Wang family is not so easy to kill. Then the matriarch of the Wang family added further. If Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang are related, they will arrest Chu Yanran. But if Chu Yanran and Chu Wuxuang are not related, they will kill Chu Yanran directly. The Wang family's quasi-emperor nodded after hearing what the old matriarch of the Wang family said. Then they left the main hall of the royal family. Meanwhile, the Wang family was still discussing how to deal with Chu Wuxuang. At this moment, the Su family and the Qin family were also looking at the Wang family with schadenfreude. In the past few days, the Su and Qin families have also noticed the changes in the Wang family. At the same time, the Su and Qin families have also received news that a heartless which has appeared on the ancient road of the human race. They also knew that this ruthless which had been slaughtering the Wang family and their prodigies, so they were all sitting and watching. Or rather, they were all hoping that this ruthless which would kill more of the Wang family's prodigies. Moreover, they also knew that the Wang family could not possibly enter the ancient human path to attack this heartless witch. Attacking her once was already the limit that the city lord's mansion of the ancient imperial city could tolerate. If they make a move again this time, then not only the ancient imperial city, but even their Su family and Qin family will choose to directly attack the Wang family, since the rules cannot be allowed to be broken by the Wang family indefinitely, unless the Su family and the Qin family can gain some benefit. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stood idly by. While the Wang family was sending people to investigate Chu Yanran, Chu Wuxuang, on the other side, finally led the top experts of the Great Xia Empire onto the ancient Star Road. The moment Chu Wuxuang led the powerful figures and army of the Great Xia Empire onto the ancient Star Road, the powerful figures on the ancient Star Road instantly locked onto Chu Wuxuang's direction, especially the strongest among the human race and the strongest among the demon race. The ancient road between humans and demons was not far away to begin with. Therefore, at this moment, the strongest humans and demons naturally locked onto Chu Wuxuang's direction. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura emanated from the Spear Emperor beside Chu Wuxuang. An extremely terrifying spear intent rushed towards the two extremely terrifying divine senses. In an instant, the gazes of the strongest beings from both the human and demon races were drawn away. Gun Emperor nodded to Chu Wuxuang before continuing to hide in the shadows. After all, neither the strongest humans nor the demons chose to make a move. So naturally, the Gun Emperor didn't choose to make a move. Then, Chu Wuxuang continued to lead the powerful soldiers and army of the Great Xia Empire behind him toward the ancient road. He has only just embarked on the ancient path through the starry sky. it will naturally take some time before one can embark on the ancient path of the human race. Meanwhile, inside the Demon Clan's immortal suppression hall, the human clan's supreme expert, the martial emperor, slowly opened his eyes, looking down with a hint of helplessness in his gaze. He hadn't expected that such a powerful being from the human race would enter the ancient human path this time. The little guy sitting in the golden chariot should be the one that the Wang family is chasing. I didn't expect the power behind this little guy to be so terrifying. This time, they directly sent a 7th-generation emperor and 2 3rd-generation emperors. Moreover, the emperor-level beings alone can cover the entire Wang family. It seems that we can only give Wang Tianlong a warning, otherwise this great battle will be detrimental to our human race. At this moment, Emperor Wu slowly raised his head and looked into the depths of the void. He had naturally discovered Chu Wushuang's direction just now. As one of the strongest humans, his strength had reached the level of a remnant immortal. Therefore, he could naturally sense the Gun Emperor's strength, which left him feeling somewhat helpless. Moreover, he had just discovered that Chu Wushuang was the human prodigy that the Wang family had been hunting down some time ago, and initially he did not choose to help Chu Wushuang. After all, every prodigy grows up only after experiencing life and death. However, no one expected that Chu Wushuang had such a terrifying power behind him. So now this human martial emperor could only feel helpless and sorrowful towards the Wang family, because the people Chu Wushuang brought this time could wipe out the entire Wang family. Then Emperor Wu directly rang the Jinxian bell of their Jinxian city. Then, the powerful human beings inside the Jinxian palace also arrived at the human palace. Meanwhile, many people were also looking at Emperor Wu with curiosity. The fact that Emperor Wu could ring the Jinxian bell indicates that something big is about to happen. Therefore, all they can do now is quickly appear in the Jinxian hall. Then everyone waited for all the human powerhouses from the Jinxian palace to arrive. Chapter 846: The Two Camps of Human Race Powerhouses at Emperor's Pass, the Martial Emperor's Choice. As the top experts of the human race entered the human race's immortal suppression hall one after another. At this moment, Emperor Wu slowly turned his gaze to Wang Tianlong, the top expert of the Wang family. The Wang family was considered a decent existence in the ancient human race road. Because Wang Tianlong's strength has reached the level of a 6th-generation great emperor, and the Wang family also has several 3rd-generation great emperors, it can be seen from this that the Wang family's strength in the human race's supplementary records is not weak. As Emperor Wu turned his gaze toward Wang Tianlong, the group of human experts present also turned their gaze toward Wang Tianlong, because they had almost guessed that Emperor Wu's summons to them was probably closely related to Wang Tianlong of the Wang family. You all received the news that the Wang family made a move against a prodigy from outside the ancient human race road some time ago, right? At this moment, Emperor Wu slowly withdrew his gaze and then spoke leisurely to the top human experts in the human race's main hall. After he finished speaking, he let out a silent sigh. Upon hearing Emperor Wu's words, everyone immediately understood, and they all looked at Wang Tianlong with a hint of doubt in their eyes. Although they had all received the news, they also knew why the Wang family had taken action against this prodigy from outside the human race. Of course, the message they received came from the Wang family. Meanwhile, many powerful human beings guessed that the Wang family's problem wasn't due to the loss of the immortal artifact, but for them, it was better to pretend nothing had happened than to hold the Wang family accountable. We have all heard that the Wang family is shameless. They dared to disregard the rules of our human race's ancient path and directly attack our human race's prodigies. At first, I want to take action against the Wang family, but considering the current relationship between our human race and other major races, I decided not to attack them. Now is not the best time to take action. It is better to let the Wang family guard the battlefield for us. At this moment, a powerful figure who had been a 6th-generation emperor slowly stepped forward and spoke, his eyes filled with resentment. He was the heaven-slaying emperor, one of the strongest beings in the human race, and also a very tough emperor who once stood up for many geniuses from outside the human race. Therefore, the relationship between Emperor Zhangtian and the Wang family was not good. However, this time, because Chu Wushuang did not perish, and because the relationship between the human race and the other major races was not particularly friendly, he did not take action against the Wang family. Otherwise, given his past personality, he probably would have already taken action against the Wang family. Although Wang Tianlong was furious after hearing his words, he also knew that the martial emperor should punish the Wang family, so he could only swallow his anger silently. Although the others did not speak at this time, they understood that Emperor Wu should punish the Wang family, so they naturally did not choose to protect them. Of course, if the most outstanding genius in their family were killed, they might choose to take action against outside geniuses, just like the Wang family did. After all, for them, the most outstanding talents in their family are the strongest, Of course, some of the strongest humans also have a high opinion of the geniuses from outside. So the geniuses from outside and the original geniuses in the Imperial Pass usually form two camps. These human powerhouses have roughly formed two camps. Moreover, many of them are geniuses from outside who have become emperors and then stayed in the human Imperial Pass. Take Emperor Zhantian, for example. He was once a prodigy of the human race. Before he broke through to the emperor level, he was constantly targeted by the powerful figures inside the Emperor Pass of the human race. At that time, Emperor Tianlong of the human race had already become an emperor-level existence. Even so, he still became an emperor-level being thanks to his formidable talent. Later, he chose to govern the geniuses of the outside world within the human race Imperial Pass. Therefore, it can be said that there are currently two factions within the human empire. However, this is on the premise that it does not affect the Great War with other major clans. If they were to wage war against other major races, the two major factions of the human race would completely merge. After all, the human race cannot afford to lose, no matter what. The reason why Emperor Zhantian did not attack the players was because the relationship between humans and demons is not particularly friendly at present. Moreover, there's always been friction between the demon race and the human race. It can be said that the war between the human race and the two major races has become irreconcilable. This is why the two major factions of the human race did not choose to take action even after discovering what the royal family had done. Of course, the main reason is that Chu Wuxuang did not perish. Otherwise, no matter how much they wanted to be tolerant, they would still have to take action. Although it is true that outsiders need to be trained, the strong in the human race Imperial Pass cannot participate in the ancient road of the human race. This is a rule I set. Since the Wang family has already participated in this war between the geniuses in the ancient road of the human race, it has broken the rule I set. Therefore, Wang Tianlong will lead the Wang family emperor in Jinxian City to the battlefield. At this moment, Emperor Wu did not hesitate at all and spoke directly to Wang Tianlong, saying that the human race Imperial Pass on the Starry Sky Ancient Road is not just a simple human race Imperial Pass. There is also a battlefield outside Jinxian City that needs to be guarded by the top experts of the human race. Therefore, Emperor Wu punished the Wang family by ascending them to guard the battlefield outside. Tianlong obeys. But Tianlong would like to know how the martial emperor intends to punish the royal family in the ancient imperial city. After hearing Emperor Wu's words, Wang Tianlong had no choice but to obey his orders. However, he still looked at Emperor Wu with a worried expression and said, although his punishment wasn't particularly severe, he believed that the Wang family in Valley City was not as simple as he imagined. It was possible that all the Earth-level beings of the Wang family would be sent to the battlefield, at which point the Wang family in ancient Emperor City would be completely wiped out. The Wang family of the ancient Emperor City is no longer something I can get involved in. The power behind that little guy being hunted down by your Wang family is not as simple as you imagine. This time, he led more than a dozen great emperors into the void ancient road, one of whom was even a seventh great emperor. So the main reason I punished you to go to the battlefield was to prevent you from fighting against the power behind that little guy and thus weakening the fighting strength of my human race. Emperor Wu, of course, did not hide anything at this moment. He told the people in front of him what he had seen. At the same time, he also expressed his own thoughts. Although the Wang family did break the rules of the ancient human path, the Wang family in Jinxian City was not at fault, so he did not want the Wang family in Jinxian City to participate in this great battle. This is why he chose to send Wang Tianlong and the others directly to the human battlefield. Chapter 847 Chu Wuxuang's human emperor laws are exposed, and the Great Xia Empire's army arrives at the ancient road of the human race. The people who were wondering why Emperor Wu would let the Wang family go so easily were instantly shocked after hearing Emperor Wu's words. Clearly, they hadn't expected that this outside force would have such a terrifying existence, sending out a being of the level of a seventh-generation emperor just for this revenge. Such an existence far exceeded their imagination. Therefore, all the powerful figures of the human race now had a look of shock in their eyes. Clearly, these human powerhouses did not expect that there were such terrifying beings of the human race in the outside world, and that they could send out a seventh-generation human emperor so easily. There must be many powerful individuals within the human race's faction, and the strength of the external forces surrounding the human race must far exceed their imagination. Your Majesty, is the royal family in the ancient imperial city truly doomed to be destroyed? Upon hearing Emperor Wu's words, Wang Tianlong looked up at him in disbelief, then spoke with a resentful expression. Although the relationship between him and the Wang family in the ancient Emperor City is quite distant, all the players in the ancient Emperor City are still his family. So if he were really wiped out, he would naturally feel unwilling. Unfortunately, Emperor Wu has now issued an order for him to go to the ancient battlefield. More importantly, the strength of the top experts among the human forces that came from elsewhere this time has far exceeded his expectations. If the powerful outsider is a 6th-generation emperor, then Wang Tianlong can still withstand him. However, this time the powerful outsider was a 7th-generation emperor, so how could he possibly withstand this 7th-generation emperor? After hearing Wang Tianlong's words, everyone else turned their gaze to Emperor Wu, clearly not expecting him to make such a decision. The young master of this foreign force possesses the human emperor's law. He must be the offspring of the human emperor who passed through our area some time ago. Therefore, our human race cannot allow the possessor of the human emperor's law to perish. As long as he grows up, we may have a chance to peek into the immortal realm. Upon hearing Wang Tianlong's words, Emperor Wu spoke calmly, his eyes remaining expressionless. It was as if all of this was perfectly normal for him. Moreover, only a true human emperor can glimpse the immortal realm. This is why he chose to abandon the Wang family directly. Of course, the most important thing is that the Wang family went too far. As for the human emperor who passed by their Jinshin palace some time ago, although they sensed him, he eventually disappeared from the Jinshin palace. It could even be said that he entered the ancient battlefield of the human race. Of course, the identity of that human emperor was none other than Chu Fan. Having arrived at the ancient road of the human race, he continued towards its final end. He then successfully arrived at the Jinshin palace. However, Chu Fan did not come to the Jinshin palace, but instead went directly to the ancient battlefield of the human race. Yes, Your Majesty, I understand. Upon hearing Emperor Wu's words, Wang Tianlong immediately nodded to Emperor Wu, but it was clear that a glint of light was flashing in his eyes. It was as if he had some kind of scheme in mind. The others were very excited after hearing Emperor Wu's words. If a powerful being at the human emperor level were to truly emerge, then perhaps, like the former human emperor, they could lead them directly to the legendary immortal realm. In that case, they could also become legendary immortals. Therefore, no one understands at all why Chu Wushuang took action against the Wang family. On the contrary, they felt that the Wang family deserved to die. Then Wang Tianlong led several of the Wang family's emperors into the ancient battlefield of the human race. After all, they now have to obey Emperor Wu's orders to guard the ancient battlefield of the human race. Meanwhile, the human race learned of what had happened on Chu Wushuang's side. At this time, the heavenly demon city of the demon race. This is the end of the ancient road of the demon race. It is also the heavenly demon city, guarded by powerful demon clan members. Because at the edge of the demon realm, there is also an ancient battlefield belonging to the demon realm. At this moment, a middle-aged man exuding a terrifying aura slowly opened his eyes. A terrifying, fiery red light was branded on his forehead. This made her look quite terrifying. He was the heavenly demon emperor of the demon race. He is also a remnant immortal. This is really interesting. There are actually 7 great emperors from the human race coming from the outside world. And judging from their current state, they seem to want to fight against the powerful figures in the human race's imperial pass. It's a pity that their strength is too weak. Otherwise, this would be an opportunity for my demon race. At this moment, the heavenly demon emperor also looked leisurely in the direction of the human race imperial pass and sighed, saying, if this time the human race sends out a remnant immortal level expert to attack the human race ancient road, this is definitely an opportunity for their demon race. Unfortunately, only a 7th generation emperor entered the ancient road of the human race this time. The 7th emperor was quite powerful. However, they still appeared too weak in front of these true remnant immortals. That's why the current heavenly demon emperor of the demon race is quietly ignoring this 7th generation emperor from outside the human race's imperial pass. As for other beings, they wouldn't attract his attention. After all, neither the Void Emperor nor the Eternal Universe Emperor were more than 3 generations of emperors. For someone at the level of a remnant immortal, it's naturally not something they would particularly care about. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chu Wushuang finally led his team to the ancient road of the human race. Of course, he did not enter the ancient road of the human race at this time. Instead, he led his own troops directly into the human race's imperial pass. Upon arriving at the human race imperial pass, Chu Wushuang was greeted by a quasi-emperor level being. At this moment, the human quasi-emperor looked at Chu Wushuang and the army behind him with a look of shock in his eyes. Clearly, he hadn't expected that Chu Wushuang would bring so many powerful figures back to the ancient human path this time. Young master, no great emperor-level beings can appear before the ancient road of humanity. So if you wish to seek revenge, please go to the ancient emperor city. This quasi-emperor naturally knew about Chu Wushuang and the Wang family. So he looked at Chu Wushuang with a mixture of helplessness and respect and spoke. Although he is no match for Chu Wushuang now. However, The human race's imperial pass can withstand attacks from powerful beings at the emperor level. Therefore, as long as Chu Wuxuang launches an attack on the human race imperial pass, the human race imperial pass will definitely be able to withstand his attack. More importantly, this quasi-emperor also hoped to see Chu Wuxuang destroy the royal family. That's why he chose to send Chu Wuxuang directly to the ancient imperial city of the human race. Chapter 848, Breaking Through the Ancient Path of a Human Race. Reuniting with Chu Yanran and the other two. Chu Wuxuang frowned after hearing what the human quasi-emperor said. Although he knew from the beginning that no great emperor-level beings could enter the front of the human race imperial pass, he originally intended to sweep through the human race imperial pass this time. However, he hesitated for a moment after hearing the words of this human quasi-emperor. After all, the actions of the human race's Emperor Guan were not particularly appropriate. But his enemies have always been the royal family. As a born king, he naturally couldn't vent his anger on the human race's imperial pass. So Chu Wuxuang merely frowned and then waved his hand at the army beside him. Chen Jibao then snorted coldly and immediately turned his troops around. Then, this army headed straight into the depths of the void. However, this army did not enter the void. Instead, they stopped in front of the ancient road of the human race, which was in front of the human race's imperial pass. There are only two ways to reach the ancient imperial city of the human race. The first way is to slowly walk from the imperial pass of the human race. The second method is to directly open up the 50th level of the ancient human path. Since the first method is not feasible, they naturally choose to take the ancient human path. Then, Chen Jibao led his army quickly into the ancient road of the human race. The Xianyuan family's army followed Chen Jibao into the ancient human path. At this time, Chu Wuxuang was naturally driving the Qilin chariot towards the ancient road of the human race. Watching Chu Wuxuang and the others leave, the quasi-emperor of the human race imperial pass finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, a hint of schadenfreude appeared in his eyes at this moment. He clearly knew that the time for the Wang family's true demise had come. I wonder what the martial emperor will choose. If the power of this outsider genius clashes with that of our human martial emperor, then it may be an opportunity for the entire demon race. Then, the human quasi-emperor sighed again, his eyes filled with helplessness. After all, the quasi-emperors of the human race were all for the sake of their human race. However, his strength is too weak right now. Nature cannot control such a battlefield. Meanwhile, Chu Wuxuang led the armies of the Great Xia Empire and the Xianyuan family into the ancient road of the human race. At this time, there were naturally many outstanding talents of the human race on the ancient road. The prodigies who were trying to pass the level suddenly saw a terrifying army enter their field of vision. Then, the golden Qilin chariot slowly appeared in the sky. Chen Jibao, standing at the very front, calmly nodded to Lu Bu. Upon seeing this, Lu Bu immediately took a step forward. Then, a very powerful aura instantly emanated from his body. The next second, he instantly punched a hole in the sky. Chu Wuxuang, on the other hand, drove the Qilin chariot directly through the gap. The army of the Great Xia Empire also rode their war horses toward the breach. Then, we saw the Great Xia Empire's emperor-level powerhouses continuously breaking the laws of the ancient human path from below. In just a short while, the ancient road of the human race was breached by the powerful warriors of the Great Xia Empire, brought by Chu Wuxuang. However, the human race's ancient road becomes increasingly difficult to conquer as the game progresses. In the end, it was only through the intervention of Emperor Hengyu that the ancient road of the human race was completely breached. Having done all this, Chu Wuxuang drove his Qilin chariot directly towards the ancient emperor city. Behind him, the armies of the Great Xia Empire and the Xianyuan family followed in a mighty procession. This scene directly shocked all the prodigies. Whether they were geniuses from elsewhere, natives of the ancient imperial city, or even geniuses from the entire human race's imperial pass, their eyes were filled with disbelief. They hadn't expected someone to be so ferocious, directly piercing through the entire ancient road of the human race. You must know that this is the ancient road where the geniuses of the human race undergo trials, possessing terrifying power of laws. But now they've been completely overwhelmed by an army. This was something they never expected. Chu Wuxuang's army quickly arrived at the 20th floor. Upon arriving there, Chu Wuxuang saw Chu Yanran. And in addition to Chu Yanran, Xin Yuanpa and Chu Chun were also present. Clearly, they sensed the power of the Great Xia Empire when the ancient road of the human race was breached, so they immediately stopped their advance. Then they waited for Chu Wuxuang, the prince of the Great Xia Empire, to arrive. Xin Yuanpa greets, Your Highness Wuxuang. Upon seeing this, Xin Yuanpa quickly stepped forward and spoke to Chu Wuxuang. Upon seeing this, Chu Wushuang calmly nodded to Xin Yuanpa. Xin Yuanpa then stood directly beside Chu Wushuang. Or rather, he is now standing beside the Qilin chariot. Chu Yanran, on the other hand, went directly into the Qilin chariot. After all, she was originally a princess of the Great Xia Empire. As for Chu Chun, he stayed by Xin Yuanpa's side, although he was the prince of Junbei of the Great Xia Empire. However, Chu Wushuang is now going to war as the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't enter the Qilin chariot. After everyone reunited, Chu Wushuang continued driving the Qilin chariot towards the ancient emperor city. The armies of the Great Xia Empire and the Xianyuan family followed him without hesitation. In a short while, Chu Wushuang led his army away from the ancient road of the human race. Meanwhile, Chu Wushuang's army left this area of the sky. At this moment, both the foreign prodigies below and the prodigies inside the human imperial pass had expressions of shock in their eyes. Clearly, they hadn't expected this to happen. I never expected that after Chu Wushuang left the ancient road of the human race, he would go to his own faction and lead an army to destroy the Wang family. This army is too terrifying. Of course, the weakest cultivator in this army is at the Saint King level. Moreover, it seems that this army is not a single army, but rather two armies joined together. The weakest cultivator in that silver-white army is at the Great Saint level. What kind of power is behind Chu Wushuang that can send out such a terrifying army? And the golden chariot he is riding in is actually pulled by Qilin, and the strength of each Qilin is far beyond the level of a great sage. What's so special about that? The people standing next to the Qilin chariot are probably all at the Great Emperor level. After all, they can stand with the Great Emperor who once broke through the ancient road of the human race, which means they are Great Emperor level beings. Wow, that's truly terrifying. At this moment, all the geniuses present were filled with shock, and they had not expected that these two armies would be so terrifying. The weakest member of every army is a Saint King level being. It should be noted that many of their prodigies are still at the saintly or true king level. Chapter 849, The Laws of the Martial Emperor descend. Chu Wushuang arrives in the ancient emperor city. However, many of the talented individuals from outside the region showed more excitement on their faces. In the beginning, they were indeed severely suppressed by the Wang family. Many prodigies even planned to leave the ancient path of the human race. However, they were reluctant to give up such a good training ground. After all, the ancient road of the human race was a place where human geniuses could grow to the level of Great Emperor. Now, Chu Wushuang's strong return is like the return of a king, giving them a glimmer of hope. Therefore, many outside human prodigies hope that Chu Wushuang can destroy the Wang family this time, so as to deter the top experts in the entire human ancient road. When these prodigies grow up, they will not need to pay attention to these human experts. The geniuses within the human race's imperial pass were utterly shocked. Clearly, they hadn't expected the power behind Chu Wushuang to be so terrifying. However, many people also saw Chu Yanran enter the Qilin chariot, which made them even more curious about the relationship between Chu Yanran and Chu Wushuang. I didn't expect that this heartless which would directly enter the Qilin chariot. It seems that Chu Wushuang and Chu Yanran must have a good relationship. Isn't that obvious? After Chu Wushuang was driven out of the ancient human road, this heartless, which Chu Yanran has been slaughtering the Wang family. Now that she's entered the Qilin war chariot, it's clear that she and Chu Wushuang are siblings. Didn't you hear what that young man in the fiery red battle robe said? He addressed Chu Wushuang as Your Highness. So Chu Wushuang must be a prince of an empire outside, and Chu Yanran must be a princess of that empire. Now that the ancient road of the human race has been completely opened, we can also go and see this great battle. How could I not have thought of that? Hurry, hurry, there won't be another chance later. The assembled prodigies instantly realized what was happening and guessed the identities of Chu Yanran and Chu Wushuang. However, what they were more looking forward to at this moment was going to the ancient imperial city of the human race to watch this great battle. After all, the ancient roads of the human race have now been completely opened up, so they can now travel directly through these passages to the ancient imperial city of the human race. Therefore, they naturally did not want to miss this major battle. So one after another, these prodigies headed straight for the ancient imperial city without the slightest hesitation. As for the city lords within the imperial passes, they all used their own methods to focus their attention on the ancient imperial city. Clearly, they also wanted to see what would happen inside the ancient imperial city. Meanwhile, the top experts in the ancient imperial city also flew out one after another, because they had all discovered the changes at the human race imperial pass. Or perhaps they have discovered that the ancient human path has been completely opened up. Therefore, their eyes were filled with shock. In particular, the city lord of the ancient imperial city had a gloomy look in his eyes. Clearly, He hadn't expected that the ancient road of the human race would be opened up by someone. However, he was deep in thought at that moment. Logically, in this situation, top-tier human experts should have come to Zhenxian City to provide support. However, none of the top human experts have appeared, which shows that this matter is not as simple as it seems. The Su and Qin families were even more surprised. Clearly, they hadn't expected this to happen. But at that moment, a silver-white jade slip slowly descended from the sky. Moreover, this silvery white jade slip was slowly emanating a terrifying pressure. Then the silver-white jade slip slowly opened. The next second, an imperial edict appeared in the sky above the ancient imperial city. This battle is a feud between the Wang family and the outside world. The ancient imperial city has no need to get involved. After this battle, the city lord of the ancient imperial city must repair the ancient road of the human race. The geniuses of the outside world and the geniuses of the imperial pass should live in peace. If anyone dares to offend again, I will personally take action. This imperial edict was filled with an authoritative voice. Then, the jade slip slowly landed in the hand of the city lord of the ancient imperial city. Upon hearing the voice of this jade slip, the city lord of the ancient imperial city was also filled with shock. At the same time, he inexplicably turned his gaze towards the Wang family's direction. He clearly hadn't expected that this matter would be related to the Wang family. At the same time, he did not expect that the Emperor Wu would deal with the Wang family in this way. However, his face now showed more helplessness, because too many treasures are needed to repair the ancient human path. However, this Emperor Wu only ordered him to repair the ancient road of the human race. However, the fact that he was not given any resources shows that Emperor Wu was giving him a chance to atone for his sins. Meanwhile, the Su and Qin families standing nearby were extremely shocked. They hadn't expected things to change so drastically. More importantly, the current situation doesn't seem to have changed much for the Su and Qin families. Then, the top experts from both families looked at the Wang family with gloating expressions. As for the old matriarch of the Wang family, she was staring at the sky with a gloomy expression. She never expected that Zhenxian City would abandon them. At the same time, she also had some guesses in her mind. At the same time, that Emperor Wu's decree disappeared. At this moment, a golden Qilin chariot slowly appeared in the sky. The golden Qilin chariot quickly traversed the entire sky and appeared above the Marshal Emperor City. Around the golden Qilin chariot stood many powerful figures at the level of emperors. The aura emanating from them was extremely terrifying. Of course, besides them, there were also Xianyuan Pe and another person. However, none of this is the most important thing. Most importantly, Chen Jibao's army slowly appeared before everyone. This unconventional Daoist from the Xianyuan family also completely entrusted their army to Chen Jibao's leadership. So now the two armies slowly traversed the entire sky. This caused the laws of the entire sky to tremble. Members of the Wang family stepped forward. Anyone who dares to offend His Highness will be killed without mercy. At this moment, Xianyuan Pe couldn't wait to come out and immediately unleashed his late-stage Great Sage aura. He stared at the ancient imperial city below with a murderous glint in his eyes. The Wang family deserves to be executed. At this moment, Chu Yanran slowly stepped out of the Qilin chariot, and her voice slowly drifted out. More importantly, the terrifying power of the human emperor was also released directly from her body. When old Madame Wang saw this scene, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She never expected that another person would appear who possessed the human emperor's law that she had been searching for. The other royal emperors looked at the sky with a mixture of helplessness and shock. Unfortunately, the enemy they were facing was so powerful. What was shocking was that Chu Yanran also possessed the human emperor's law. Chapter 850. The gloating Su and Qin families are on the verge of war. As Chu Yanran slowly appeared before everyone. At this moment, many people present recognized Chu Yanran's identity. After all, everyone knows that a heartless which appeared on the ancient road of the human race. However, what they were looking forward to even more at this moment was Chu Wushuang inside the Qilin chariot. Although the Qilin chariot is enclosed. However, they can now vaguely sense the aura emanating from inside the chariot. Amidst the expectant gazes of the crowd, Chu Wushuang stepped out of the Qilin chariot without the slightest hesitation. A golden halo appeared beneath his feet. Then a golden avenue made him appear as if he were floating in the sky. At the same time, the golden aura of the human emperor's law emanating from his body also erupted directly. The next second, a pair of golden beams of light emanated from his golden eyes. He looked in the direction of the Wang family with an extremely domineering air. Chen Jibao. At the same time, his domineering yet calm voice slowly spread through the sky as he spoke to Chen Jibao behind him without turning his head. Your subordinate is here. Chun Jibao's voice slowly came from behind, and he respectfully cupped his hands to Chu Wushuang. At the same time, a hint of murderous intent could be seen in his eyes when he glanced at the Wang family. Those who offend our great Xia Empire shall be killed without mercy. Chu Wushuang's voice rang out again in the sky, and then he slowly pointed his finger in the direction of the Wang family. Upon hearing Chu Wushuang's command, Chun Jibao immediately turned his gaze towards the Wang family without hesitation, and his loud voice once again echoed throughout the sky. Anyone who offends my great Xia Empire will be killed without mercy, and anyone who disturbs His Highness Wushuang of my great Xia Empire will be killed without mercy. As soon as his voice rang out, a terrifying aura instantly emanated from the great snow dragon riders behind him, and their eyes filled with killing intent as they looked at the Wang family. Kill, kill, kill. At the same time, their battle cries echoed throughout the entire ancient emperor's city, instantly chilling the entire city to the bone. The geniuses watching this scene from the ancient human path were filled with shock. They hadn't expected Chu Wushuang's background to be so terrifying. The strength of the army they brought this time is also terrifying. What a terrifying existence. Is the Great Xia Empire really that powerful? But why have I never heard of the Great Xia Empire? At this moment, a genius at the Saint King level looked in the direction of Chu Wushuang with disbelief and said something. In addition to disbelief, his eyes were also filled with shock. This peerless prince is truly handsome, able to command such a large army at the same time. Perhaps this peerless prince is the so-called crown prince of the Great Xia Empire. Are you stupid? If this Prince Wushuang were the crown prince of the Great Xia Empire, then this general would address him as the crown prince, not Prince Wushuang. Although His Highness Wushuang is not the crown prince of the Great Xia Empire, his status within the Great Xia Empire should not be low. The Wang family probably never imagined that they would provoke such a terrifying existence. Yes, even that martial emperor has abandoned the Wang family. It seems that the Wang family is truly doomed this time. At this moment, all the geniuses present looked at Chu Wushuang with admiration and spoke up. Obviously, they did not expect Chu Wushuang's background to be so terrifying. At the same time, there was a hint of envy in their eyes. After all, how could Chu Wushuang, who has such a terrifying background, be simple? Of course, it wasn't just these prodigies who were shocked at this moment. Even the city lord of the ancient imperial city, or the Su and Qin families, who were in the ancient imperial city at this moment, had a look of shock in their eyes. It seems that the so-called Great Xia Empire is not as simple as we imagined. There are more than a dozen powerful figures at the Great Emperor level alone, and the fact that the Martial Emperor can issue decrees and orders means that the Great Xia Empire is not as simple as we thought. At this moment, the head of the Qin family looked at Chu Wushuang with a hint of surprise in his eyes and said something with a helpless expression on his face. If he had helped this prodigy from the beginning, he would have gained not only the goodwill of the prodigy's backing, but possibly even the support of the Martial Emperor. The Wang family is doomed to be destroyed this time. After all, there are more than a dozen great emperors among them, and the Martial Emperor has no intention of interfering with the Wang family. I'm afraid even the top experts of the Wang family in Jinxian City have been suppressed by the Martial Emperor. At this moment, after hearing the words of the Qin family head, the Su family head nodded seriously and said, after all, none of the Wang family's top experts in Jinxian City have come to support them yet. This shows that the Wang family had no other support this time. Thinking of this, he looked at the Wang family with a hint of schadenfreude. Because of the presence of Wang Tianlong, a sixth-generation emperor, in Jinxian City, the Wang family was extremely arrogant in the ancient imperial city. This left the Su and Qin families feeling helpless. Little did they expect that the Wang family would provoke such a terrifying existence this time. This instantly excited the Su and Qin families. As for the city lord of the ancient imperial city, he was quite helpless at this moment, and his face darkened for a moment. Clearly, he hadn't expected that the power behind Chu Wushuang was so terrifying. If he had known from the beginning that Chu Wushuang's backing could force Emperor Wu to compromise, he would have helped Chu Wushuang long ago, while everyone was expressing their feelings. At this moment, Chun Jibao in the sky also directly issued orders to the great snow dragon riders and the fiery legion of the Xianyuan family behind him. Then, the great snow dragon rider transformed into a streak of silver-white light and charged towards the Wang family's direction. The same applies to the fiery legion. However, their strength is no match for the great snow dragon riders, so they are currently forming a formation to continuously surround the top members of the royal family. Of course, they did not choose to attack the true emperor-level powerhouses of the Wang family. After all, the current strength of the Wang family's emperor-level experts is still beyond their ability to deal with. Since you want to destroy my Wang family, then my Wang family has no choice but to fight to the death. At this moment, The matriarch of the Wang family, seeing this scene, stood up and spoke with great anger, her eyes filled with rage as she looked at Chu Wushuang. The current matriarch of the Wang family has no regrets about the orders she gave to Chu Wushuang. What she regretted was why she hadn't captured Chu Wushuang immediately. Chapter 851 The Great War begins, the mighty strength of the Great Xia Empire. Then, the matriarch of the Wang family slowly took a step forward, holding her dragon-headed cane. The aura emanating from him far surpassed that of a great emperor. No matter what, this matriarch of the Wang family was a great emperor of her time. Therefore, her strength is naturally not weak. Just as the matriarch of the Wang family slowly walked out from the Wang family's camp, Ji Haoyue and Jiang Taishu, who were behind Chu Wushuang, also slowly stepped out. Although both of them have reached the great emperor perfection realm. However, it would be impossible for one person to deal with the old matriarch of the Wang family. Therefore, the two decided to join forces to deal with the old matriarch of the Wang family. So it was you who issued the kill order against my Prince Wushuang? At this moment, Ji Haoyue slowly looked at the old matriarch of the Wang family in front of him, his eyes filled with a strong, killing intent, and his voice slowly spread throughout the void. Moreover, after speaking, Ji Haoyue did not wait for the old matriarch of the Wang family to reply. Instead, he stretched out a huge palm, and it quickly slapped in the direction of old Madame Wang. The terrifying power instantly caused the entire void to tremble. Upon seeing this, Jiang Taishu slowly took a step forward. Then, the pure land of the gods appeared behind him in an instant. The terrifying phenomenon instantly overwhelmed the surrounding space and time. He also blocked the direction in which the old matriarch of the Wang family wanted to escape. Therefore, old Madame Wang had no choice but to withstand Ji Haoyue's attacks. Then, Ji Haoyue and Jiang Taishu pulled the old lady of the Wang family directly into the battlefield. If they continue fighting in the ancient imperial city, therefore, the ancient imperial city might not be able to withstand the great battle between them. Then, the great battle between old Madame Wang and Ji Haoyue was fully launched. Although the old matriarch of the Wang family has reached the level of a first-generation emperor, Ji Haoyue and Jiang Taishu are both peerless geniuses. Moreover, both of them already possessed the bodies of god kings. Therefore, the two of them working together could naturally fight to a draw with the old matriarch of the Wang family. Meanwhile, the matriarch of the Wang family was engaged in a fierce battle with Ji Haoyue and Jiang Taishu. At this moment, Yuan Qingdu, who was standing behind Chu Wushuang, also slowly stepped forward. His golden armor radiated a terrifying glow. At the same time, the phoenix-winged, gilded halberd in his hand was also trembling continuously. Then, Yuan Qingdu instantly turned his gaze to a mid-stage great emperor from the Wang family, and without any hesitation, pulled this mid-stage great emperor from the Wang family into a void. The two then engaged in a fierce battle in the void. Yuan Qingdu's talent and strength were already terrifying. Therefore, in this battle against this mid-stage emperor of the Wang family, he was not at a disadvantage in the slightest. He even seems to have the upper hand now. Every strike he made exuded terrifying power. At this moment, Lu Bu slowly stepped forward, his eyes filled with murderous intent as he looked at the last mid-stage great emperor of the Wang family. This person is also the same Wang family emperor who fought against Lu Bu in the ancient human road last time. Lu Bu's voice, which sounded like a demon god, slowly reached the ears of the great emperor of the Wang family. In this battle in the void, I will show you my true power. After saying that, Lu Bu headed straight into the depths of the void. Although the middle-aged emperor of the Wang family had a gloomy face after hearing Lu Bu's words, he did not hesitate at all and followed Lu Bu into the depths of the void. After all, he might not be a match for Lu Bu. However, if he goes to the depths of the void, he only needs to face Lu Bu alone. However, if he stays here, he will have to deal with even more emperor-level beings. Therefore, the emperor of the royal family did not hesitate at all, and at the same time that the emperor of the Wang family left. At this point, the Wang family only had two emperor-level figures left. One of them was the old man from the Wang family who had reached the great emperor realm. The other one was a late-stage great emperor. Although both of them had good auras, they were now looking at Chu Wushuang with serious expressions. After all, they had already guessed that the Wang family had probably reached the pinnacle of their destruction today. No matter what they do, they probably can't change the outcome of this great war. Before they could even step forward, Shimin Shueishue and Yi Guqing slowly stepped out. The two looked at each other. Without the slightest hesitation, Shimin Shueishue gripped the long sword in his hand tightly. Then a terrifying sword light ripped through the entire sky. Without the slightest hesitation, he took the late-stage great emperor of the Wang family to the depths of the void. Yi Guqing then slowly turned his gaze to the old man from the Wang family, who was at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. He then directly attacked the old man from the Wang family, who had reached the Great Emperor realm. The terrifying sword energy emanating from his body swept across the entire void. The next second, he transformed into a silver-white, flying immortal and disappeared. Along with him, the Great Emperor of the Wang family, who had reached the perfection realm, also disappeared. After all the emperor-level powerhouses of the Wang family were taken away from the ancient imperial city, the remaining beings are those from the Wang family who have reached the quasi-emperor level. Of course, besides them, there are also late-stage or mid-stage quasi-emperors in the Wang family. However, at this time, they were constantly dealing with the Great Snow Dragon Riders. After all, there are quite a few quasi-emperors among the Great Snow Dragon Riders. Your Highness, leave the rest to me. At this moment, Pei Yuanqing slowly walked out and looked at the Wang family members, saying that he had a simple and honest smile on his face. However, one could sense that a terrifying power was constantly emanating from him. No matter what, Pei Yuanqing was a great emperor in the early stages. Then, he smashed the silver hammer in his hand directly at the Wang family's quasi-emperor perfection realm being. The Wang family now has 7 members at the quasi-emperor perfection realm, but unfortunately, there is a huge gap between the quasi-emperor perfection realm and the great emperor realm. Moreover, their opponent, a grand emperor in the early stages, was none other than Pei Yuanqing, who was capable of fighting opponents of higher levels. In just a short while, Pei Yuanqing suppressed the Wang family's quasi-emperor perfection realm beings. Meanwhile, Li Yuanba and the others beside Chu Wushuang looked eager to try. Yuanba, go help Yuan Qingdu and quickly deal with that emperor from the Wang family. At this moment, Chu Wushuang slowly looked at Li Yuanba, who was eager to try his luck beside him, and then calmly looked into the depths of the void and said, "Your subordinate obeys." Upon hearing Chu Wushuang's words, Li Yuanba became excited and then disappeared with his iron hammer. Chapter 852, A Fierce Battle, the mysterious visitor from the ancient human path, and the holy son of the heavenly god academy. Chu Wushuang nodded after seeing Li Yuanba disappear. Then he slowly turned his gaze to Xiang Yu beside him. When Xiang Yu saw Chu Wushuang looking at him, a look of anticipation appeared on his face. "General Xiang Yu, you should go and help General Lu Bu deal with that emperor from the Wang family." At the same time, Chu Wushuang issued his order. To deal with the Wang family quickly, they had to be dealt with swiftly, since Chu Wushuang didn't yet know what other tricks the Wang family had up their sleeves. After hearing Chu Wushuang's words, Xiang Yu bowed to her and then left without saying goodbye. Chu Wushuang then immediately deployed all the great emperor-level beings around him to the battlefield, as he needed to eliminate the Wang family's great emperors as quickly as possible. Of course, he didn't arrange for the Void Emperor and the Eternal Universe Emperor to go out. After all, both the Void Emperor and the Eternal Universe Emperor are 3-generation emperors, so there is naturally no need for them to take action now. Moreover, Chu Wushuang felt that the Wang family was not as simple as he had imagined. Therefore, Chu Wushuang is still waiting for the top experts of the Wang family to make a move. The Void Emperor and the Eternal Universe Emperor were the ones who dealt with the Wang family's top experts. If neither the Void Emperor nor the Eternal Emperor can handle it, then we'll have to let that gun master take action. After all, the Spear Emperor that Chu Wushuang brought this time had reached the level of a 7th-generation emperor. And then this great battle began. The army of the Great Xia Empire swept through the entire royal family. The Wang family is quite powerful. However, they appeared somewhat weak in the face of the great snow dragon riders of the Great Xia Empire. Moreover, the number of quasi-emperors among the great snow dragon riders of the Great Xia Empire is quite large. Moreover, this army is led by Chun Zhibao, a mid-stage great emperor, so their strength can be described as invincible in the void. Therefore, it is naturally very easy for them to deal with the royal family's army in front of them. Then, the holy kings, or those below the holy king level of the royal family, began to slowly perish. The speed at which they fell far exceeded everyone's expectations. More importantly, even beings at the great sage level are beginning to fall. It should be noted that a great sage level being would be considered quite a formidable existence in other universes. In many universes, beings at the great sage level are already considered among the most powerful. However, the number of great sage level beings who have fallen in the Wang family is already quite large. Moreover, aside from the fall of beings at the great sage level, the Wang family's quasi-emperor also began to slowly decline. One after another, the royal family's quasi-emperors slowly fell from grace. The sight left everyone watching in awe. Clearly, they hadn't expected that even quasi-emperors were falling one after another. Such a great battle has far exceeded their imagination. They couldn't even imagine any battle could be more devastating than this one. At the same time that Chu Wuxuang launched an attack on the Wang family. At this time, several uninvited guests also arrived on the ancient road of the human race. One of them was dressed in a purple-red robe and was very handsome, but it was clear that his handsome face was even more terrifying. He also carried a hint of evil about him. More importantly, the aura emanating from him had reached the great sage perfection realm. Reaching this level at such a young age shows that his talent far surpasses that of other so-called prodigies. To his left was an elderly man with an ordinary appearance, and to his right was a middle-aged man with a resolute appearance. The aura emanating from both of them was extremely terrifying. Even beings at the level of emperors seemed insignificant in front of the two of them. Holy Sun, the entire ancient road of the human race has now been breached by the Great Xia Empire, so there is no longer any opportunity for you to gain experience on the road. Should we continue to go deeper? At this moment, the old man frowned and looked at the sky, saying that he could see that the entire ancient road of the human race had been completely pierced by the power of the Great Xia Empire. That's why the old man is now looking at the sky with some apprehension. What level of strength has Chu Wuxuang of the Great Xia Empire reached? At this moment, the young man, known as the Holy Sun, asked the old man a question after hearing his words, and a hint of killing intent could be seen in his eyes. According to the information we have received, this peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire should be at the late stage of the Great Saint Realm, or the Great Saint Realm at its peak. At this moment, the resolute middle-aged man beside him also spoke slowly, and after he finished speaking, there was a calm look in his eyes. It seemed he didn't particularly value Chu Wuxuang of the Great Xia Empire. If that's the case, then if I, the Holy Sun, challenge him this time, and he kills you too, will you be able to protect me? After hearing the middle-aged man's words, the young man looked into the distance with a hint of murderous intent and said, after saying that, he licked his lips, looking extremely perverted. Holy Sun, we cannot kill Chu Wuxuang of the Great Xia Empire now. Otherwise, even if we can protect you, the Emperor of the Great Xia Empire will choose to directly wage war against our Heavenly God Academy, and then we will suffer a greater loss. After hearing the young man's words, the old man slowly spoke, and then shook his head helplessly, although he had complete confidence in his own Holy Sun. However, if their own Holy Sun were to kill the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire, then the Emperor of the Great Xia Empire would probably launch a war directly. They knew quite a bit about His Majesty, the Emperor of the Great Xia Empire. If a major war were to break out between the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly God Academy, then their universe would be completely shattered. Even though their Heavenly God Academy won this great battle, it will not be of any benefit to the path to immortality that follows. Therefore, this old man naturally did not want his Holy Son to kill the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire. Although the Holy Sun cannot kill the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire, the Holy Sun can defeat him now. After defeating him, he can humiliate him and let the entire ancient road of humanity know that my Heavenly God Academy is stronger than their Great Xia Empire. The middle-aged man then slowly turned his gaze to the void before speaking to the young man. At the same time, you can see a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. Although they cannot kill the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire right now, if they were to even humiliate him. Therefore, it is impossible for the Great Xia Empire to directly wage war against their Heavenly God Academy. After all, the Great Xia Empire would not go to war with the Heavenly God Academy over such a trivial matter, unless they actually kill Chu Wuxuang. Chapter 853, The Excitement of the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy, and Wang Changsheng, the hidden powerhouse of the Wang family. The Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy's eyes lit up instantly after hearing what the person beside him said. Although he couldn't kill the eldest prince of the Great Xia Empire right now, he could certainly make the prince lose face completely. More importantly, the current crown prince of the Great Xia Empire is under the spotlight. Without hesitation, the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy headed directly toward the broken ancient road of the human race, because he wanted to defeat the eldest prince of the Great Xia Empire as quickly as possible. This would not only enhance the reputation of their Heavenly God Academy, but also avenge their academy. After all, many of the geniuses from the Heavenly God Academy had fallen at the hands of the Great Xia Empire's eldest prince, and many of their quasi-emperor and great saint-level experts had also perished in that secret realm. Therefore, he would naturally be very excited if he could make the eldest prince of the Great Xia Empire suffer a setback. Upon hearing his words, the two powerful figures beside him excitedly followed their Holy Son and headed directly towards the ancient imperial city without hesitation. After all, they wanted to see how the eldest prince of the Great Xia Empire would feel after being defeated. Of course, they would also keep an eye on the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy to prevent him from killing the eldest prince of the Great Xia Empire. Otherwise, if the Heavenly God Academy and the Great Xia Empire went to war, that would be something the Heavenly God Academy would not want to see, just as this Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy was rushing to arrive. Meanwhile, in the ancient imperial city, the Void Emperor beside Chu Wuxuang slowly turned his gaze toward the depths of the Wang family. At this moment, he had a furrowed brow all over. Your Highness, the Wang family is still hiding a second emperor. Although his aura is powerful, he should be undergoing a transformation now. Then, the Void Emperor slowly cupped his hands towards Chu Wuxuang and spoke. At first, he did not realize that the Wang family actually had a powerful second-generation emperor who was undergoing a transformation. However, as the great battle continued, the second emperor of the Wang family also released his aura, which is why the Void Emperor was able to sense this aura so easily. How long do you think it will take to resolve this? Chu Wuxuang was somewhat surprised after hearing the Void Emperor's words, but he quickly nodded to the Void Emperor and said, the Void Emperor was invincible within his realm, so dealing with someone of lower cultivation level should be much easier for him. This is why Chu Wuxuang had so much confidence in him. If I wanted to deal with him, it would only take a few days at most. The Void Emperor was taken aback upon hearing Chu Wuxuang's words, but quickly recovered and addressed Chu Wuxuang in front of him. Great Emperor-level powerhouses generally have very long lifespans. Moreover, it's not as simple as one might imagine for a great emperor to kill another great emperor. This is why, despite the long-lasting battle in the sky, the powerful figures of the Great Xia Empire have not yet killed the emperor of the royal family. Not to mention that this member of the Wang family has already begun to transform, although we have not yet reached the level of a third emperor. But now we are only one step away from becoming the third emperor. Go, leave no one from the Wang family alive. Upon hearing the Void Emperor's words, Chu Wuxuang directly addressed the Void Emperor, a fierce killing intent flashing in his eyes. He would not leave behind a powerful figure who had served as a third emperor as his enemy. After all, if the second emperor of the Wang family were to break through to the third emperor, then staying would really be a very bad choice for him. After hearing Chu Wuxuang's words, the Void Emperor slowly walked out. Then he slowly turned his gaze toward the Wang family's direction. At the same time, there was a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. Everyone present was puzzled when they saw the Void Emperor emerge, although they could not sense the true cultivation level of the Void Emperor. However, they do not believe that the Void Emperor is weak. After all, how could anyone who could follow this peerless prince from out of town be weak? Moreover, the Void Emperor hadn't even made a move yet at the beginning. It's clear from his slow emergence that his strength far surpasses that of an ordinary emperor. Such a strong sense of oppression. His strength must be at least at the level of a three-generation emperor. If that's really the case, then what level of strength does the other one have? At this moment, the city lord of the ancient imperial city looked at the Void Emperor who had walked out, his eyes filled with shock. Then, he muttered to himself as he looked at the Void Emperor. After speaking, he slowly turned his gaze to Emperor Hengyu beside Chu Wuxuang. Since this Void Emperor's strength had already reached such a terrifying level. So, what level of strength does this powerful figure, who has yet to make a move, possess? He was also deeply shocked as he watched this scene, as the Void Emperor stood amidst the ruins of the royal family. At this moment, an old sigh also came from deep within the Wang family compound. Alas, I didn't expect to be discovered by you in the end. But do you really intend to fight the Wang family to the death? As the voice slowly emanated, a terrifying aura gradually emerged from the back mountain of the Wang family. The next second, an elderly man who looked like he was about to die slowly appeared in front of everyone. There was a hint of helplessness in the old man's eyes. However, at this moment, he looked at the Void Emperor in front of him with great solemnity, because he knew that his opponent now was the Void Emperor in front of him. Moreover, he knew that the Void Emperor's strength far exceeded his imagination. The Wang family was doomed from the moment they sent someone to assassinate my prince. After hearing the words of this top expert from the Wang family, the Void Emperor slowly looked at the elder of the Wang family and spoke. The Wang family had no chance of survival from the moment they made that choice. If that's the case, then I'll have to fight too. After hearing the words of the Void Emperor, the elder of the Wang family understood what the Void Emperor meant. So he looked at the Void Emperor very seriously and spoke. After he finished speaking, the aura of a second-generation emperor burst forth from his body. And because he is undergoing a transformation, therefore, the aura emanating from him gradually began to resemble that of the third emperor. Moreover, a strong aura of death was constantly emanating from his body. Wang Changsheng of the Wang family. At the same time, the old man's voice slowly drifted out. Chapter 854 The Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy arrives in the ancient Emperor's city and provokes Chu Wuchuan. Then he transformed into a beam of red light and disappeared. Clearly, he did not intend to wage a major battle in the ancient imperial city at this time. After all, if they were to engage in a major battle within the ancient imperial city, the entire city would be destroyed given their current level of power. Upon seeing this, the Void Emperor simply took his void mirror and vanished. However, the circumstances of his disappearance are not particularly similar to those of the Wang family's top expert, because he tore through a piece of void and stepped into it. This is what makes the Void Emperor so terrifying. Soon, the Void Emperor and Wang Changsheng of the Wang family disappeared from the ancient imperial city. The two soon appeared in the depths of a void. At the same time, the aura emanating from both of them was extremely terrifying. Moreover, the two of them were now locked in a fierce battle. Wang Changsheng was holding a long spear. A terrifying fighting spirit emanated from him. The Void Emperor, on the other hand, used his void mirror to continuously unleash the laws of the void. At the same time, one could feel the terrifying aura of the void laws emanating from him constantly hurtling towards Wang Changsheng. The battle between the two had overshadowed the battles between the Emperor-level experts from other royal families and the Emperor-level experts from the Great Xia Empire. After all, their strength far exceeded that of ordinary Emperor-level powerhouses. However, it will take at least some time before a winner is decided in their battle. Meanwhile, the Void Emperor and Wang Changsheng of the Wang family were engaged in a fierce battle. At this moment, everyone above the ancient imperial city was filled with shock. Clearly, they hadn't expected the Wang family to have such a terrifying member. Even at this moment, the city lord of the ancient imperial city still had a look of doubt and confusion in his eyes. Even he, the second emperor, hadn't expected the royal family to have such a terrifying existence. Not to mention the emperor-level existences in other ancient strata. It seems the Wang family has been hiding their true strength. They have a second-generation emperor hidden in the ancient strata, and judging from the fact that his aura is constantly changing, this second-generation emperor of the Wang family is about to transform into a third-generation emperor. Unfortunately, he probably won't have the chance to transform this time. At this moment, the middle-aged scholar beside the city lord of the ancient emperor's city said with a touch of emotion in his eyes, "Although my strength is not as great as that of the city lord of the ancient emperor's city, I am still a great emperor of this era." Therefore, he could still sense the aura emanating from Wang Changsheng of the Wang family. He then gazed at the great battle in the sky with a touch of melancholy. Indeed, even if he manages to escape this time, his transformation will be interrupted by the people of the Great Xia Empire, making it much more difficult for him to transform into a third-generation emperor. At this moment, the city lord of the ancient imperial city also expressed his strong agreement. After he finished speaking, he looked in Chu Wuchuang's direction with a solemn expression. Judging from the powerful figures and army that Chu Wuchuang brought this time, if these terrifyingly powerful individuals were to attack their entire ancient imperial city, then it's really possible that they could defeat their entire ancient imperial city. Although the number of emperor-level experts in their ancient emperor city combined was greater than the number of emperor-level experts brought by Chu Wuchuang. However, there was another terrifying figure beside Chu Wuchuang at this time. It should be noted that a single emperor of 3 generations could easily deal with other emperor-level beings. A third-generation emperor can hold off several second-generation emperors. Therefore, even if they combined their entire ancient imperial city, it would be impossible for them to completely annihilate the people brought by the Great Xia Empire. As for the Su family and the Qin family, they were extremely shocked as they watched Wang Changsheng of the Wang family and the Void Emperor of the Great Xia Empire leave. The strongest among the Su and Qin families is only a great emperor of a single lifetime. Therefore, these truly top-tier experts naturally found it incredible. At the same time, you could see a hint of schadenfreude in the eyes of both heads of the family. If they were uncertain at the beginning, they can now say they are very certain that the Wang family will not be destroyed this time. As for those prodigies, they were utterly shocked by what they saw, especially the talented individuals from outside the region. Their eyes were filled with excitement. After all, they were furious when they heard the news that the Wang family was hunting down their outsider prodigy. However, because they wanted to continue their training on the ancient human path, they did not choose to rebel against the royal family. But if the Wang family were to be destroyed now, they would naturally be very excited. And this great battle is continuing. A voice with a hint of amusement slowly drifted from afar. Moreover, besides the playfulness, the voice also carried a strong sense of disdain. I never expected that His Highness Wuchuang of the Great Xia Empire would be such a bully. He truly lives up to the name of His Highness Wuchuang of the Great Xia Empire. As the voice slowly drifted from afar, everyone's gaze turned towards the direction from which it came, eager to see who dared to mock the peerless prince who had already grasped the overall situation. After all, the sense of oppression Chu Wuxuang brought them was still too strong. At this moment, Chu Wuxuang frowned and slowly turned his gaze toward the direction from which the sound came. From the direction the sound came from, a young man dressed in a purple-red robe slowly approached the ancient imperial city. Beside him were two powerful figures with extremely strong auras. However, Chu Wuxuang recognized the identities of the three people in front of him immediately. Even Xian Yuanpa and the others recognized the identities of the three people who were constantly approaching them. These three were none other than the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy and two other top experts. After traveling for some time, they naturally arrived at the ancient imperial city. The Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy also directly chose to provoke Chu Wuxuang. "You scum from the Heavenly God Academy, where did you get the audacity to be so disrespectful to His Highness Wuxuang?" At this moment, Xian Yuanpa showed no restraint whatsoever. He quickly stepped forward and looked at the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy. At the same time, his eyes also carried a strong, killing intent. The terrifying flames emanating from his body erupted completely. "You are the fiery young marshal of the Xianyuan family. Although your strength is not bad, this is not a reason for you to be presumptuous in front of this Holy Son." At this moment, the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy also turned his gaze to Xian Yuanpa. Then, he unleashed an aura that did not belong to the Great Saint Perfection realm, and looked at Xian Yuanpa with a murderous intent in his eyes. As the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy, he naturally understood the people of the Xianyuan family and the Great Xia Empire. Chapter 855 Zhao Wuji, the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy, and Xian Yuanpa's great battle against Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy. This is why he recognized Xian Yuanpa's identity immediately. However, Xian Yuanpa is only at the late stage of the Great Sage realm, and there is still a gap between him and Xian Yuanpa, so he naturally looks down on Xian Yuanpa at this time. When Xian Yuanpa sensed the aura emanating from the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy, his expression instantly turned serious. However, he still arrogantly stepped forward to look at the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy. "Since you know my name, you still dare to be so presumptuous. It seems that the people of your Heavenly God Academy are as arrogant as ever. However, the stronger people of the Heavenly God Academy who are more arrogant than you have already fallen. Were you compared to me?" Then, Xian Yuanpa arrogantly looked at the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy in front of him and spoke. After speaking, he summoned his fiery red battle spear. He looked at the Holy Sons of the Heavenly God Academy with a murderous glint in his eyes. If conditions allowed, he would now directly attack this Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy. "Xian Yuanpa, you're courting death. Do you really think this Holy Son wouldn't dare kill you?" Upon hearing Xian Yuanpa's words, the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy became utterly enraged. He stared at Xian Yuanpa with a gloomy expression and exuded a terrifying aura. The murderous intent in his eyes was revealed without any attempt to conceal it. "State your name, and this young marshal will not kill nameless nobodies." At this moment, Xian Yuanpa looked at the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy with great disdain and spoke. After speaking, he stood in the sky above the ancient Emperor's city with a triumphant air. The intense killing intent in his eyes was also immediately released. Although his strength was indeed one realm weaker than that of the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy, Xian Yuanpa did not believe that he was no match for the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy. This Holy Son is Zhao Wuji, the first Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy. After hearing Xian Yuanpa's words, the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy snorted coldly at Xian Yuanpa. But at this moment, he also revealed his identity directly. After all, as the first Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy, he naturally had his own pride. "So you're a Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy. But it seems that 2 or 3 of your Holy Sons were killed by His Highness Wuxuang. I wonder what their relationship is with you." Upon hearing Zhao Wuji's words, Xian Yuanpa grinned wickedly, which only fueled Zhao Wuji's anger. Then, a purple longbow instantly appeared in Zhao Wuji's hand. He quickly pulled the bowstring in his hand. A barrage of arrows, like shooting stars, hurtled directly towards Xian Yuanpa. Upon seeing this, Xian Yuanpa quickly dodged. Then, he directly charged toward Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy, wielding his spear. He appeared beside Zhao Wuji like a streak of light. The terrifying spear slammed down in front of Zhao Wuji like a ball of fire. Upon seeing this, Zhao Wuji quickly retreated, and he pulled the longbow in his hand again. Then, one purple meteor after another hurtled toward Xian Yuanpa's direction once more. Xian Yuanpa's lips twitched upon seeing this scene. He then quickly used the spear in his hand to deflect the meteors. After successfully deflecting all the attacks, Xian Yuanpa slowly raised his head and looked at Zhao Wuji. I never expected that the holy son of the Heavenly God Academy wouldn't even dare to fight me head-on, only knowing how to launch sneak attacks from the sky. Truly worthy of being a member of the Heavenly God Academy. Then Xian Yuanpa's mocking voice reached Zhao Wuji's ears directly. Having done all this, Xian Yuanpa showed no mercy and once again charged towards Zhao Wuji with his spear. Upon seeing this, Zhao Wuji did not hesitate at all to draw his bow and shoot an arrow again. The terrifying attacks continued to hurtle towards Xian Yuanpa, and the person was constantly using the laws of space to jump. Then he kept dodging Xian Yuanpa's attacks. At the same time, his attacks continued to rain down on Xian Yuanpa. As for Xian Yuanpa, he kept using the spear in his hand to defend himself. Zhao Wuji, you're acting like a woman. If you're so capable, clash with this young marshal like a real man. Xian Yuanpa, who had desperately blocked Zhao Wuji's attack, looked at Zhao Wuji with a hint of anger on his face and said. At this moment, Zhao Wuji ignored Xian Yuanpa's words and instead continued to draw his bow and shoot arrows. Terrifying attacks were relentlessly hurtling towards Xian Yuanpa. Seeing this, Xian Yuanpa could only helplessly continue to evade. At the same time that Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy were engaged in a fierce battle. At this moment, everyone present also turned their attention from the battlefield of the Wang family to Wang Zinyuanpo and Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy. They never expected that someone would dare to challenge the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire under such circumstances. You should know that in their hearts, this peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire is now an invincible existence. The power behind him is even more terrifying. Therefore, everyone is very curious about this so-called Heavenly God Academy, although they had never heard of the name of the Heavenly God Academy. But how dare they openly challenge His Highness Wu Shuang of the Great Xia Empire? This means that the Heavenly God Academy should be no weaker than the Great Xia Empire. They also learned from the two men's conversation that a holy son of the Heavenly God Academy had fallen at the hands of the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire. This instantly made them even more curious about the grudges between the two major forces. It seems that the Great Xia Empire is not invincible in the outside world. At least there is the Heavenly God Academy that can contend with them. Moreover, this Heavenly God Academy should not be as simple as imagined. Otherwise, how could the Great Xia Empire not completely destroy them? At this moment, the middle-aged scholar beside the city lord of the ancient emperor city slowly looked at the city lord and spoke. After he finished speaking, there was a playful smile in his eyes. At first, he was worried that the Great Xia Empire was invincible in the outside world. However, judging from the current situation, the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly God Academy should be in a hostile relationship. Moreover, the strength of the two forces should be roughly equal. Otherwise, one of them would probably have been wiped out by now. Perhaps there are more than just the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly God Academy in the outside world. Although this Xian Yuanpa is respectful to His Highness Wu Shuang of the Great Xia Empire, he should not be a member of the Great Xia Empire. At this moment, the city lord of the ancient imperial city frowned and spoke, his eyes filled with a hint of inquiry. Based on his perspective, he could naturally see that although Zinyuanpo respected Chu Wu Shuang, Zinyuanpo was probably not a member of the Great Xia Empire. That's why he made that guess. Chapter 856 The Shock of the Prodigies. Qin Zhan, the prodigy of the ancient emperor city. The city lord of the ancient imperial city frowned after hearing the middle-aged man's words, and then slowly turned his gaze toward Chu Wushuang. Although he was unaware of the situation outside, he could tell from the current circumstances that there must be a lot of grudges between the Heavenly God Academy and the Great Xia Empire. However, the two major forces should be roughly equal in strength. Otherwise, one of them would probably have been wiped out by now. However, he didn't say anything at this moment, because he could see that the strength of both the so-called Heavenly God Academy and the so-called Great Xia Empire far exceeded his imagination. After all, the fact that the Great Xia Empire could easily produce so many Emperor-level beings meant that the Great Xia Empire's true strength had surpassed that of their ancient imperial city. Even so, the fact that the Heavenly God Academy dared to provoke the Great Xia Empire meant that their strength was no less than that of the Great Xia Empire. Therefore, their ancient imperial city naturally dared not provoke any of these forces. As for the Su and Qin families standing next to him, their eyes were filled with shock. Clearly, they had not anticipated that there would be a Heavenly God Academy outside that dared to attack the Great Xia Empire, and that the prodigy of this outside force would be so powerful. It turned out to be a prodigy at the Great Sage Perfection realm. This immediately shocked both the Su and Qin families. At the same time, They finally understood why the Heavenly God Academy dared to provoke the great Xia Empire. The strength and talent of this holy son of the Heavenly God Academy alone are not weak. However, at this moment they were more curious about Xian Yuanpa's strength. It seems that the outside world is not as simple as we imagined. In the past, although the geniuses outside were powerful, the strength of the outside world was not particularly strong. But now the strength of the outside world seems to be very strong, surpassing many of the strong in our Imperial Pass. At this moment, the Qin family head looked at the Su family head beside him with a touch of emotion and spoke, his eyes showing a serious expression after he finished speaking. They were well aware that while the prodigies from the outside world were incredibly powerful, the forces in that world were not particularly strong. Because there is a huge gap between the outside world and their ancient starry road. It is extremely difficult for outsiders to send out a powerful expert at the level of an emperor. It could even be said that there are no emperor-level beings in many universes. However, the Great Xia Empire and the newly emerged Heavenly God Academy have far exceeded their expectations, which has shocked the Qin family patriarch. Not only that, the strength of these geniuses far exceeds our imagination. Now I finally understand why Wang Dao of the Wang family fell into Chu Wuxuang's hands. Although Wang Dao is considered one of the top geniuses in our ancient emperor city, he is still somewhat inferior to these geniuses from the outside world. At this moment, the head of the Su family nodded in agreement, and then slowly turned his gaze to Chu Wuxuang and the others in the sky. He finally realized why Wang Dao had fallen at the hands of Chu Wuxuang. Of course, they are unaware that Wang Dao has already been sent to Jinxian City by the Wang family. Originally, the Wang family intended for Wang Dao to continue sleeping within their household. However, to prevent the city lord's mansion of the ancient emperor's city from finding out, they sent Wang Dao to Jinxian City. This is why the royal road is not located in the ancestral land of the royal family. The top experts from the Su and Qin families nodded in agreement after hearing their conversation. Of course, they weren't the only ones shocked at this moment. The prodigies watching this scene were even more shocked, because they did not expect to see two such formidable prodigies. At this moment, their eyes were fixed on the direction where Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji were fighting in the sky. Because Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji's strength had far exceeded their expectations. I never expected that their strength had reached the late stage of the Great Sage Realm and the perfect stage of the Great Sage Realm, respectively. Are they really geniuses of our generation? At this moment, a prodigy looked at the great battle in the sky with disbelief in his eyes and muttered to himself. This prodigy's own strength was only at the Saint Realm. He thought that the strength of a genius at the Saint King level was truly top tier. But I never expected there would be two such terrifying geniuses. Moreover, these two terrifying prodigies have already reached the Great Sage Realm. One of them was in the later stages of the Great Sage Realm, while the other had even reached the Great Sage Perfection Realm. Of course, the most important thing is that both of them have reached a terrifying level of strength. Not only that, their strength is probably invincible in the Great Sage Realm. Sigh, I thought I was already a top genius, but I never imagined that I was so far from being a true top genius. The strength of a true top genius has far exceeded my imagination. Is this what a true top genius is? In our universe, such a strong person is already the strongest person in all major forces. Now that you mention it, my universe isn't particularly powerful. It seems that the world where the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly God Academy are located is the truly most powerful world. At this moment, many of the prodigies were still discussing it, and their eyes were filled with a sense of emotion. Most of them were at the Saintly Realm or Saint King Realm. In their world, their talent was among the best. They never imagined that upon arriving at the ancient Star Road, they would encounter such a terrifying being. While all the prodigies were discussing it, at this moment, a young man who exuded a very calm aura slowly raised his head and looked at Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji, who were fighting in the sky. Standing beside him were several prodigies emanating the aura of the Great Sage Realm. This person is none other than Qin Zhan, the very mysterious figure from the ancient imperial city. His cultivation level has reached the late stage of the Great Sage Realm. At this moment, when he looked at the battle between Xian Yuanpa and the other two, there was a look of shock in his eyes, but soon a smile appeared on his face again. It seems that the prodigies outside are not as simple as I imagined. My opponent is no longer just Wang Dao. Then he looked leisurely in the direction of Xian Yuanpa and the other two and said, and after he finished speaking, a fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. Brother Qin Zhan, what level do you think their strength has reached, and are they capable of defeating Wang Dao? At this moment, another young man standing next to Qin Zhan slowly stepped forward, looked at Qin Zhan, and said, this person is a peerless genius of the Su family. His cultivation level had also reached the Great Sage Realm. Unfortunately, his cultivation level was only at the mid-stage of the Great Sage realm. Throughout the entire ancient imperial city, it was constantly suppressed by the kingly way. Chapter 857 Zhao Wuji's formidable strength and the arrival of Chu Wushuang's 3 major followers. Having just emerged from seclusion some time ago, he heard that Wang Dao had fallen at the hands of a prodigy from the outside world. He was instantly incredulous, but today he had witnessed a true battle between the world's most talented geniuses, which is why he couldn't help but ask Qin Zhang beside him. Their strength is among the top in their respective realms, and the power they are currently displaying is no weaker than that of veteran experts of the Great Sage Perfection realm. Wang Dao's strength should not be as great as theirs. After hearing the young man's words, Qin Zhang shook his head and said that although he had never truly seen how powerful the king's way really was. However, Qin Zhang could sense that the strength of Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji in the sky far exceeded his expectations. Or rather, Qin Zhang disdained the kingly way, but he had a fighting spirit towards Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji. This is why he judged that Zhao Wuji and Xian Yuanpa's strength surpassed Wang Dao's. As expected, although Wang Dao can run rampant in the ancient imperial city, that's because he hasn't encountered any true geniuses. After hearing Qin Zhang's words, the young man looked enlightened and then sighed softly. However, when he saw Qin Zhang beside him, a bitter look appeared on his face again. If Qin Zhang had appeared when Wang Dao challenged the entire ancient emperor city, how could Wang Dao, the #1 prodigy of the ancient emperor city, have possibly earned the title of #1 prodigy? Several talented young men, standing beside them, upon hearing Qin Zhang's words, gazed with some emotion at the great battle in the sky. They are both the pride of the Su and Qin families. Although they are all quite strong, they are still a bit inferior to the former kingly way. Now, after hearing Qin Zhang's words, they felt even more that the former kingly way was not worth mentioning. While Qin Zhang and the others were still watching the great battle in the sky, at this moment, Xian Yuanpa had begun to slowly fall into a disadvantageous position. Although Xian Yuanpa's talent and strength are not weak. However, the holy son of the Heavenly God Academy, Zhao Wuji, in front of them was also quite powerful. Moreover, Zhao Wuji had already reached the Great Sage Perfection realm. Therefore, the battle between the two naturally began to put Xian Yuanpa at a disadvantage. Fortunately, Xian Yuanpa was constantly using his spear to deal with Zhao Wuji from the Heavenly God Academy in front of him. You, the fiery young marshal, are no good either. Get back here and let Chu Wushuang come. Zhao Wuji looked at Xian Yuanpa, who was constantly blocking his attacks, and spoke with a disdainful expression. After speaking, he glanced at Chu Wushuang with a hint of contempt in his eyes. It was as if he were slapping Chu Wushuang in the face. Upon hearing Zhao Wuji's words, Xian Yuanpa instantly became furious. Who do you think you are, daring to be so arrogant in front of me, the young marshal? Then he roared at Zhao Wuji in front of him, and his whole body instantly exuded a terrifying aura. The next second, the spear in his hand went straight for Zhao Wuji. However, Zhao Wuji's strength is not weak now. He quickly drew a huge law in front of him. At the same time, a large seal instantly appeared in his hand. A terrifying and immense power emanated directly from his body. The next second, he directly blocked Xian Yuanpa's attack. Moreover, it instantly neutralized Xian Yuanpa's attack. Then he continued his fierce battle with Xian Yuanpa. Chu Wushuang, who was watching the scene from the sky, also frowned. Although Xian Yuanpa's strength is indeed not weak. However, he could now see that if this great battle continued, the ultimate victor would be Zhao Wuji from the Heavenly God Academy. Thinking of this, Chu Wushuang frowned. He had absolutely no good feelings towards the Heavenly God Academy. Therefore, he naturally hopes that Xian Yuanpa can defeat this prodigy from the Heavenly God Academy. Unfortunately, it seems that Xian Yuanpa has no chance to defeat Zhao Wuji now. Just as Chu Wushuang was frowning, 3 beams of light suddenly appeared in the direction of the ancient human road. Without the slightest hesitation, the 3 beams of light headed directly towards Chu Wushuang. Chu Wushuang's brows relaxed completely upon sensing the 3 beams of light, because he already knew the true owner of those 3 beams of light. The crowd shifted their gaze from Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji to the 3 beams of light beside Chu Wushuang. We have met, Your Highness. The 3 beams of light quickly revealed 3 figures, who, without hesitation, cupped their hands in a salute to Chu Wushuang. There was a hint of determination in his eyes. Weren't you heading to your own ancient star road? Why are you appearing on my human race's ancient road? At this moment, Chu Wushuang looked at the 3 people in front of him with some curiosity and spoke up. It turned out that the 3 people in front of him were the 3 divine beasts that followed him. At this time, Xuanwu and Qinglong had reached the late stage of Great Sage, and their strength was only one step away from reaching the Great Sage Perfection realm. As for the White Tiger, he was originally a Great Sage at the Perfected realm. His current strength is among the top in the Great Sage Perfection realm. Your Highness, we have not found the ancient path of the 4 divine beasts. Upon hearing Chu Wushuang's words, Baihu awkwardly scratched his head and stepped forward, looking at Chu Wushuang with a glimmer of hope. Xuanwu and Qinglong nodded to Chu Wushuang after hearing Baihu's words. It is clear that what Baihu said is true. Since we haven't found the ancient path of the 4 divine beasts, then you should follow me. After all, you are my followers, so you should have no problem venturing into the ancient path of the human race. After seeing the expressions on the 3 people's faces, Chu Wushuang understood what was going on. He then nodded to them and spoke. Since they cannot find the ancient path of the 4 divine beasts, then they can simply follow them. After all, his followers could naturally follow him to continue his adventures on the ancient path of humanity. Your Highness, that Gaishin Yuanpa is about to lose to the people from the Heavenly God Academy. Should I go and help him? He's really embarrassing, Your Highness. At this moment, Baihu chuckled and slowly stepped forward, looking towards the direction where Xian Yuanpa and Zhao Wuji were fighting in the sky. Xian Yuanpa often played with the 3 of them, so Xian Yuanpa also had a good relationship with Baihu and the others. Furthermore, the reason why the Phoenix, one of the 4 divine beasts, cannot be found is the 3 of them already regarded Xian Yuanpa as another one of their 4 divine beasts. Therefore, they naturally couldn't stand by and watch Xian Yuan fall into such a miserable state. Chapter 858, The Sharp-Tongued White Tiger Divine Beast. White Tiger battles Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy. Although Qinglong's eyes showed a hint of eagerness after hearing Baihu's words, he could also sense that the Holy Son of the Heavenly God Academy was quite powerful, so he did not speak up. Otherwise, Qinglong would prefer to kill all these so-called Holy Sons of the Heavenly God Academy, since he was imprisoned by the Heavenly God Academy when he was in the Great Emperor's secret realm. If it weren't for Chu Wushuang, he might have been completely killed by the Heavenly God Academy. Therefore, Qinglong now harbors resentment towards the Heavenly God Academy and even wants to kill everyone in the Academy. At this moment, Xuanwu looked calmly in Zhao Wuji's direction. However, one can also see a hint of fighting spirit in Xuanwu's eyes. How confident are you in defeating him? At this moment, Chu Wushuang calmly looked at the White Tiger and asked, her eyes still showing calmness. He could naturally sense that, due to his evolution, the White Tiger's strength had far surpassed that of an ordinary Great Sage at the Perfected Realm. Therefore, it is possible for them to defeat Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy. As for the Black Tortoise and the Azure Dragon, their strength is not weak either. However, their current strength should be similar to that of Xian Yuanpa. So if the 2 of them were to go up against him, the result would naturally be similar to that of Xian Yuanpa. However, if Xian Yuanpa and the other 2 join forces, they will definitely be able to defeat Zhao Wuji. However, the current situation does not allow the 3 of them to join forces. After all, his followers could only defeat these so-called prodigies one by one. Or rather, these prodigies could besiege his followers. However, Chu Wushuang did not want his followers to gang up on others, unless it's a truly life-or-death situation. Otherwise, even if several people defeat one person, it would still be a disgrace to him. Your Highness, I guarantee I can suppress him directly. Upon hearing Chu Wushuang's words, Baihu excitedly stepped forward and spoke, his eyes gleaming with intense fighting spirit. Because Baihu was confident that he could crush Zhao Wuji from the Heavenly God Academy. If that's the case, then go. It doesn't matter if we kill him. After hearing Baihu's words, Chu Wushuang simply waved his hand at him, as if he were asking Baihu to kill an ant. Baihu was taken aback when he heard Chu Wushuang's words, but soon a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Since his own prince had given him permission to kill Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy, how could he possibly not kill him? Then, a silvery white light instantly appeared on the White Tiger's entire body. The next second, a silver-white battle armor instantly appeared on his body. Then he arrogantly headed straight for the battlefield where Xian Yuanpa and the other man were fighting. The next second, he appeared outside the battlefield. Then his arrogant voice slowly rang out. Xian Yuanpa, you're so weak. If you can't beat him, then step aside and let me handle it. His voice carried not only arrogance, but also a hint of mockery. Of course, it was common for him to mock Xian Yuanpa. After all, they often tease each other when they're together. Since Xian Yuanpa is no match for a holy son of the Heavenly God Academy, he naturally won't let this opportunity pass by to mock Xian Yuanpa. Xian Yuanpa was speechless after hearing Baihu's mocking laughter. I'm just tired from traveling these past few days, otherwise I could easily crush him. But since you're here, I'll just give him to you. Then, Xian Yuanpa's voice slowly came from the battlefield. The next second, he quickly forced Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy to retreat with a single spear thrust. Without hesitation, he transformed into a streak of fire and vanished from the battlefield. Upon seeing this, Baihu pursed his lips in Zunyuanpo's direction, and then his voice slowly rang out again. Weak is weak. Watch me kill him and show you. As soon as Baihu finished speaking, he landed directly in the spot where Xianyuan had just been, and at the same time, a halberd instantly appeared in his hand. He looked at Zhao Wuji in front of him with a hint of mockery in his eyes. The power emanating from this halberd is already terrifying. It seemed capable of completely tearing the sky apart. Then, Baihu quickly turned his gaze to Zhao Wuji and continued speaking to him with a hint of mockery. I don't know how many holy sons your Heavenly God Academy has. If you can, call them all here. You're not even good enough for me to beat. The white tiger maximized the taunting effect. After saying that, he impatiently brandished the halberd in his hand. White tiger, you are the divine general white tiger who is by Chu Wushuang's side. At this moment, Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly God Academy had a somewhat gloomy expression, but he still looked at the white tiger in front of him and spoke slowly. At the same time, he could also sense the terrifying aura emanating from the white tiger. This terrifying aura was no weaker than the aura emanating from him. He was speechless for a moment. I never expected that my name would spread to your Heavenly God Academy, and even you, the Holy Son of Heavenly God Academy, have heard of my name. But since you have heard of my name, do you still want to fight me? Baihu was somewhat surprised after hearing Zhao Wuji's words. Then, he picked at his ear and spoke to Zhao Wuji in front of him. After hearing Baihu's words, Zhao Wuji clearly had no intention of saying anything more to Baihu. He simply took the large seal in his hand. The terrifying power crashed down directly towards the white tiger. The white tiger, who cultivated the laws of power, was naturally even more excited upon seeing this scene. So he grabbed his halberd and charged straight at Zhao Wuji. The next second, the halberd in his hand collided directly with Zhao Wuji's seal. The moment two terrifying forces collided, a terrifying force instantly surged through Zhao Wuji's hand. He almost lost control of his seal. The white tiger was extremely excited to see this. Instead, he continued to wield his halberd and charge toward Zhao Wuji. The excitement in his eyes was completely undisguised. Upon seeing this, Zhao Wuji leaped high into the air. Then he kept making hand seals. The seal in front of him also began to slowly grow larger. In the blink of an eye, the large seal grew to the size of a small mountain. It seemed as if it could completely crush this world. Then it crashed directly towards the white tiger. Chapter 859 Fierce Battle. The Wang family suffers heavy losses. At this moment, Baihu directly charged forward with his halberd. The terrifying aura emanating from his body erupted directly. In an instant, it collided with the enormous seal in the sky. He was then thrown back an unknown distance by the terrifying attack. He crashed heavily into the depths of the void. However, Zhao Wuji, who was opposite him, was not having an easy time either. At that moment, he was also blasted away by the large seal in his hand. His entire body crashed directly towards the direction of the ancient human path. It slammed heavily into the ancient road of the human race in an instant. His body was directly embedded in the ancient road of the human race. Before Zhao Wuji could react, the white tiger that had just flown away flew back again, appearing beside him as quickly as a streak of light. Without the slightest hesitation, he brought the halberd in his hand down directly on Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji's pupils contracted upon seeing this scene. Then he quickly made hand seals. The great seal before them transformed once more into a massive seal capable of crushing the entire heavens, crashing down towards the white tiger. The two terrifying forces collided once again. Then Baihu and Zhao Wuji clashed again. Both of them were at the great sage perfection realm. At the same time, their combat strength is among the top in the true geniuses. Therefore, the strength that the two of them are now displaying naturally far exceeds that of ordinary great sages of the perfected realm. Those who witnessed this scene were also filled with shock. Whether they were geniuses from outside the capital or geniuses from within the Imperial Pass, their eyes were filled with shock. Clearly, they hadn't expected that the strength of these two prodigies from the outside world had reached such a terrifying level. Is this the true strength of the top geniuses in the outside world? I used to think that the top geniuses were the only true masters, but now it seems that the geniuses in the outside world are not as simple as we imagined. At this moment, one of the geniuses from the Imperial Pass said with an incredulous look in his eyes, as they were local geniuses and had naturally heard the legends about the King's Way. Therefore, they all believed that the most outstanding geniuses were the only true masters. Therefore, when they learned that the royal path had been defeated by the outside genius, they were all filled with disbelief. But now, after seeing the true prodigies of the outside world, they realized just how terrifying they really are. His words were recognized by many of the geniuses in the Imperial Pass, as they now truly understood just how powerful a true genius could be. However, many prodigies are speculating about the extent of Chu Wuxuang's strength. After all, the white tiger who followed him alone possessed such terrifying strength. So, what level of ability has he personally reached? Many of the geniuses who thought of this turned their gazes toward Chu Wuxuang. You truly deserve to be called the prodigy who opened this era and walked the ancient path. I'm afraid I'm no match for you now. Even now, Qin Zhan looked at Chu Wuxuang with a touch of emotion in his eyes and said, if Qin Zhan had complete confidence in himself at the beginning, Qin Zhan now has absolutely no confidence in himself. After all, he could now sense that even if he faced this white tiger or Zhao Wuji from the Heavenly God Academy, he might not be able to defeat him. Not to mention the even more terrifying Chu Wuxuang. Upon hearing his words, the top talents beside him also showed a hint of astonishment in their eyes. However, when they saw the increasingly powerful white tiger and Zhao Wuji from the Heavenly God Academy, they finally understood why Qin Zhan had said that. Because they now know that if they were to face Zhao Wuji of the Heavenly Divine Academy in this white tiger, they would have no chance of victory whatsoever. You could even say that they could be defeated with a casual move. Thinking of this, a trace of sadness appeared in their eyes. Clearly, they hadn't expected the prodigies from the outside world to be so terrifying. You should know that their strength is already terrifying. However, they did not expect that the strength of the geniuses from the outside world far exceeded their imagination. Of course, at this moment, many geniuses from the outside world also looked at Chu Wuxuang with disbelief and emotion, and, at the same time, their eyes also showed a hint of admiration. The fact that Chu Wuxuang was able to subdue such a terrifying number of followers means that Chu Wuxuang's strength far exceeded their imagination. As for Chu Wuxuang, who was standing in the sky, he watched this scene with great calm. After all, it would be much easier for him to deal with Zhao Wuji from the Heavenly God Academy. The reason he isn't taking action now is mainly because he is the peerless prince of the Great Xia Empire. Now is not the time for him to make his move. Therefore, Chu Wuxuang naturally had no intention of making a move at this time. Instead, they calmly watched the great battle unfold. Of course, the battle between Zhao Wuji and Baihu of Tianqian Academy is extremely fierce. But compared to the real battle between heaven and earth, the battle between the two was rather childish. For example, Chun Jibao's army is currently slaughtering the Wang family members. Although there are still many quasi-emperor level experts in the Wang family who are constantly resisting the army of the Great Xia Empire. But how could the army of the Great Xia Empire be so easily resisted? It should be noted that every member of the Great Snow Dragon Riders of the Great Xia Empire has already reached the Great Saint level. Among them, there are hundreds of beings at the quasi-emperor level. Although Chun Jibao, a powerful figure at the Great Emperor level, did not make a move, the terrifying suppression emanating from him made it difficult for even the most powerful members of the Wang family at the farming level to raise their heads. Therefore, this great war continued with the constant fall of the royal family. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, almost all of the Wang family's great sage-level experts had perished in the battle. It can be said that this time, the Great Xia Empire intends to completely exterminate the royal family. Therefore, the only ones left in the Wang family who can still clash with the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry of the Great Xia Empire or the Blazing Fire Legion of the Xianyuan family are those at the quasi-emperor level. Although their strength is not bad, they will definitely all perish after this great battle. At that time, the entire Wang family will be completely wiped out in the ancient imperial city. At the same time, this great battle will also completely destroy the entire Wang family. Although the Wang family has a considerable number of quasi-emperors, the Great Xia Empire and the Xianyuan family also have a significant number of quasi-emperors this time. Therefore, in terms of numbers, the armies of the Great Xia Empire and the Xianyuan family completely overwhelmed the quasi-emperors of the royal family. Moreover, that unorthodox Taoist from the Xianyuan family has been slaughtering the Wang family's quasi-emperors.